Hey friends, what's up? Today I'm here with new audiobook which is of Sudha Murty, Grandparents' Bag of Stories. So let's begin. Story number 1, The Rival of Rice and the Children. It was a pleasant afternoon in March. Ajji and Aja were glued to television. The worry on their faces depended as they heard increasingly distressing news about the coronavirus situation. Aja turned to Ajji.
The virus started in China, but look at what has happened. It has spread all over the world, becoming a pandemic.
The anchor on the television announced, "The government is asking people to isolate themselves and follow social distancing protocols. All schools will be closed until further notice." Ajji's thought turned to her grandchildren in Bangalore and Mumbai. The sound of an auto rickshaw coming to a stop outside the house interrupted her thoughts and the bell rang. Ding dong, ding dong. Ajji opened the door and saw Kamlu, Aja's sister, and her granddaughter Aditi. Ajji was delighted and surprised to see them. "Come inside," she said. Kamlu Ajji smiled as she took the bags out of the auto rickshaw. "Why didn't you tell us you were coming?" asked Ajji. "We would have picked you up from the railway station."
Kamlu, Ajji and Aditi entered the house. "Kamlu, why did you make this trip in with deadly virus around?" Aja demanded, concerned.
"Oh, I didn't know coronavirus had reached here too. Isn't it the time of card festival for now? I haven't seen it in so long. Aditi has her holidays and now her mother is working from home, so it is hard to keep her engaged. I thought she might enjoy the festival and brought her with me. Besides, I wanted to give you a surprise."
9-year-old Aditi stood shyly behind Kamlu Ajji. "Come child, sit," said Ajji, inviting her with love. They all went to sit in the living room and just then phone rang.
Tring tring, tring tring.
Ajji picked it up. It was her daughter Sumati from Mumbai.
"Amma," she said, "I'm sending both the kids to you in Shigon."
"I'd be happy to have Raghu and Meenu, but what happened?"
"With COVID-19 spreading like wildfire, the schools are closing down for some time and no one knows when they will reopen. Most of the people live in apartments in Mumbai and it is almost impossible to keep children from going outside. Moreover, we are working from home and can't tend to their needs at all time. So we thought about it and spoke to Subhadra if I could send Raghu and Meenu to her, and she said yes."
"All the children can come here, Sumati," Ajji interrupted her.
"I know you would say that's why I called you. Subhadra has also agreed to send her children to Shigon with you. You have a large compound around your ear and there's a plenty of fresh air and space to move around. This way the kids can be with you and not get bored since they will able to play with each other. Now don't hesitate to be frank. Tell me, will it be a problem for you to handle the 4 of them without sending them outside the house?"
"No, Sumati, that is not my problem. My worry is how will they come here?"
"We will take care of that, Amma. Raghu and Meenu have already taken a flight from Mumbai to Bangalore and today are about to reach Subhadra's home," said Sumati. "They can come to Shigon tomorrow and stay for a few weeks."
Aja, who had been listening to Ajji's side of the call, took the phone from her and spoke to Sumati. "Don't worry, child. Kamlu and her granddaughter Aditi are also here. Send the children."
Almost immediately there was another call from Bangalore. Subhadra was on the line. She said something. "My parents have already taken Anand with them, but Krishna and Anushka want to see you and stay in Shigon. I have spoken to Sumati already and the 4 children will reach you at your home tomorrow. Our office manager has offered to drive them from Bangalore to Shigon, but he will come then back immediately because there's a lot of work to be taken care before the thing gets worse, as is expected," said Subhadra. Ajji ended the call and looked at Aja. "I'm happy to hear that our grandchildren are coming, but I'm concerned about the coronavirus situation. Will you just call the temple and check if the card festival is still going ahead as planned?" Aja nodded and dialed the temple's number. While calling, he remarked, "It's unlikely that they will have to go ahead with the festival. We had committee meeting festival yesterday and I suggested that we skip the card festival this year, but others rejected my opinion. They felt that we shouldn't worry because the coronavirus hasn't reached yet. I disagreed. Conducting the festival will be akin to giving coronavirus an invitation to come here." Kamlu Ajji's face fell.
"Instead of surprising you, I'm the one who is surprised and disappointed. I think I will go back after a few days."
Kamlu Ajji and Ajji were close friends. Ajji was not pleased that she would be going. "You are not going anywhere," she said emphatically. Kart festival or not, you are staying here with us. Ajja turned out to be right. The festival has been cancelled.
Kamlu Ajji turned to Ajji and announced, I'm going to take charge of your kitchen. I love cooking. You can rest for a few days.
Ajja added, if the situation with respect to the coronavirus gets worse and the lockdown is announced, then we should not bring out any outside help for the work around the house. Let's share the work. Yes, I agree. We can't call anyone, said Ajji. Once the children arrive tomorrow, I will assign household chores to all of them. They will also help us. Ajji went to the storeroom to check if she needed to get more groceries. Ajja followed her and remarked, some places have already announced lockdown. If we have a lockdown here too, there will be many people who will not get enough food. We must help them and lend a hand when the time comes. Please order extra rations and keep them in storeroom. We may need them to feed other people. Ajji began to make a grocery list. Ajja dialed up the number of local grocery shop for a home delivery. Meanwhile, Aditi sat nearby reading a book. She was happy that four of her cousins were coming. The next evening, Raghu, Meenu, Krishna and Anushka arrived with a great excitement. They loved visiting their grandparents' large and spacious home where they were pampered and allowed their freedom. The office manager dropped the kids and promptly left. As soon as they entered the home, Aditi squealed and joined them immediately. Anushka had grown tall. Ajay announced, Anushka, you are tallest of the girls now. The girl had brought their school books and many bottles of sanitizer and hand washed refill packets. They seemed happy to be away from their parents with no classes or teacher to worry about. They told their grandparents how sanitizer were being used everywhere in their school before they had closed and in their apartment blocks in Mumbai and Bangalore, including even the lift. Have things become that difficult there? Ajji asked, concerned. Yes, said Raghu. The government is taking many precautions and has become quite strict. Children, what you would like to eat for dinner? Something light, Ajji. We have ate heavy snacks at the short time ago. Then I'll make something special. Perhaps methi rice, said Kamlu Ajji. It is easy to digest and delicious and good for supper. The children agreed and Kamlu Ajji headed to the kitchen. Ajja switched on the television. The discussions about quarantine and social isolations continued on all news channels. The Prime Minister was going to address the nation shortly. Ajja looked outside the window, then it was evening. He sighed, children, this is a serious now, and we all must stay inside of the wall of the house. You can go only as far away as the wall of the compound. We must not go out for any reason. In less than an hour, Kamlu Ajji had made an excellent dish of methi rice with cucumber raita. Proudly Ajja said, all these vegetables of our garden. We use natural fertilizers and grow organic vegetables that taste much better than what you get outside. After dinner, the children helped Ajji in laying down 5 mattresses next to each other. Each of them chose the bed as they wanted. Once it was done, Raghu turned to Ajji. You have not completed your daily routine. Ajji smiled. She knew what he was referring. A story, Ajji, pleased Anushka. A story a day keeps all difficulty away. Everyone chuckled. Okay, I will tell you a story. It is a tale what you ate at for the dinner about rice. Rice is a part of our daily diet and we can't imagine living without rice or wheat today. The children gathered around both the Ajjis. Ajja sat on the chair nearby watching the television. The Prime Minister announced a lockdown will be imposed starting midnight. Everyone must stay home for the next few weeks. It was the evening and already dark outside. The children began listening to the story earnestly. Just as the quarantine period was formally declared, Ajja muted the volume on the television but continued to watching. Let us all listen to the story of how rice came to earth, said Ajji. A long time ago, humans could walk on clouds and wander freely in heaven. One day, Madhav, a mortal, became curious about how gods lived in heaven. Where do they work? What do they do all day? What do they eat? He wondered. So he walked up to the heaven and met many gods. He found that there were several gods and goddesses responsible for different departments in the realm. There was a god of water, god of learning, god of courage, god of good health, among others. But the goddess of grains, Annapurna, fascinated Madhav the most. He asked her, Devi, I want to see the way agriculture system works here. What do you eat and how do you produce it? Annapurna called him home and fed him a sumptuous meal. One of the ingredients was delicious, soft, white food that looked like a grain. I have never ate this or seen it before. I don't think anyone on earth has either. It is a delectable. What is this? He asked. This is rice. All gods eat rice. It gives us energy and mixes very well with all vegetable. Madhav agreed with her. As long as I am here, I would like to eat rice. The goddess smiled. Of course, Madhav, eat as much as your heart desire. The next day, Madhav asked her, How is rice grown here? Will you please show me? Since he was really keen to know, Annapurna took him to the rice fields to show how the bed was prepared, how the seeds were sown, and how the water was retained, and how it was replanted during the different stages of its growth. When the rice grains were ready for harvest, they took on a golden color and formed in a bunch. Such a beautiful sight to look at, he thought. After that, the goddess showed him how the harvest was pounded from grain to rice. There were a variety of rice emerged from the pounded grain, which was then ready to cook for a meal. Madhav spent a few more days in heaven and then asked for goddess for permission to go back to the earth. During his last dinner there, he thought of his wife, his parents, his children, his sibling, and his village. I want everyone to taste the magic of rice at least once in their lifetime, even if it is just 1 teaspoon. But I am afraid to ask the goddess. She is sure to refuse request since this food is of God after all. So Madhav took 4 seeds of rice and hid them in his turban. He knew no one would think of looking at the seeds there. Madhava came back to earth, quickly planted the seeds and took care of them in the same way Annapurna had showed him. When it was time for harvest, he followed the process. He pounded and made them rice. He made a sweet dish with white rice, then closed eyes and first offered it to the goddess of brains. Annapurna heard his prayers in heaven and came down to the earth. When she saw the rice, she became furious. She said, Madhav, you have betrayed my trust. I respect the love for knowledge and appreciate your curiosity, but you have stolen from me. Had you been truthful, I would have given you some myself. You may be punished for being a thief. Madhava touched her feet and apologized. Mother, I did because of my insecurity. Please forgive me. We are all your children. I have wanted to share the taste of rice with others too. It was not just for my selfishness. Moreover, I have also shared the knowledge of growing rice with others. This is so much better than we eat. It makes energetic too. Wouldn't you like your children to have this? Please, I request you to pardon me. Annapurna sighed. I can't argue with that. I know that your intentions were good. Now that rice is here on earth too, I will always send a sign when it's time to sow the seeds. I will wash my hairs in the heaven, and when I push back my head, the wet hairs will fall on my back, and the water will flow down as rain onto earth. That will be the best time for humans to sow the seed. The only punishment I can give you is now no mortal will be allowed to come freely in the heaven no more. They will be allowed to do only after they discard their body at death. That is how rice started growing on the earth. Raghu exclaimed, What a nice story, Ajji. We all eat rice, but I had never heard the story of how it came to be on the earth. Anushka replied, I don't like rice at all, but I love rotis. When we are living in Delhi, our schools have different types of rotis on canteens offer. How did we come to earth, Ajji? Ajji looked at the children's, but her mind wandered in different thoughts. Ajji is a treasure trove of stories. I'm sure she knew this story too, said Ajja, his face crinkling into a slight smile. Yes, of course, I know. Kamlu Ajji knows the same one too. Kamlu, why don't you tell the children this story? Maybe I will share it tomorrow. You all must be tired, said Kamlu Ajji. No, Kamlu Ajji, we are never too tired to hear the stories. Please tell us, insisted Meenu. And so Kamlu Ajji began her story. Arun was a young, brave, courageous lad. He loved adventure, so he decided to set out from his village. He took his bow and arrow and began walking aimlessly. He wanted to explore the world. After trekking for a few 100 kilometers, he came across a beautiful lake with a bridge. As he got closer, he saw a huge serpent occupying the entire length of ridge. He had 2 choices. He could return back or cross the bridge regardless of the serpent. If he chose the latter, he would have to step on the serpent carefully until he reached the other end. Since Arun did not want to go back, he began walking on the serpent's body. After he took a few strides, he heard a voice say, Hello, hello, stop right there. Arun turned around. To his astonishment, he saw that serpent had vanished in its place. It stood, and its In its place stood an old man. A little afraid, he asked the old man, "Are you calling to me out?" "Yes." "Where is the serpent? It was here a moment ago," asked Arun. "I am the serpent. In fact, I am the king of the serpents and have a fantastic palace below this lake," said the old man. "Then why you are sleeping here?" "To see if I could solve a problem. You see, there is a cruel, powerful eagle who lives on the other side of the mountain. Every day she comes and eat one of my subjects. Beside my subject, I have many children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren too. And no matter how much I try, I have not been able to defeat that eagle. So I wanted to test and find someone who is bold and courageous and will agree to help us. That is why I changed my size and lay down to the bridge. Everybody who came here chose to turn back, except you. You have passed my test. Will you try to help us?" Hearing the sincerity in old man's voice, Arun knew instantly he was telling the truth. The desire to save the kingdom and fight a nasty eagle was too strong to Arun to refuse. He nodded. The old man smiled and relieved to have found a ray of hope. "We have some time before the eagle comes again tomorrow. Would you like to visit my palace?" he asked. Arun agreed. Then they both jumped to the water. Arun thought that he would hit the bottom soon, but he didn't. The two men passed through a tunnel and entered the beautiful, impressive cities with a plenty of plants, fruits, flowers. Many serpents walked around in the form of humans, but there was stillness in the water. Despite the obvious prosperity, no one seemed happy. The Serpent King guided Arun to his palace. Soon there was a huge feast laid out in his honor. There was more food than he had ever seen. After a hearty meal, the king introduced him to his clan. The king thought, "Poor Arjun, this might be his last meal." The next morning, the Serpent King and Arun came back to the surface of the lake. It wasn't long before Arun heard a terrifying screech. An enormous and scary eagle was heading towards them, intent on breaking through the water and finding its next victim for the city that lay underneath. Arun took out his bow and got ready to shoot at the eagle. He had only 3 arrows in his quiver. He shot the first arrow. It touched the left wing of the eagle and broke and fell down. The eagle continued to flying without missing a beat. The Serpent King grew concerned. Perhaps this boy will not able to slay the eagle either, he thought. He let loose the second arrow. It touched the right wing of the eagle and broke and fell down. The eagle continued to fly steadily towards them. The Serpent King grew more and more concerned. There was only one arrow left now, and the eagle was going to reach them soon. Arun looked down the lake and saw the eagle reflection in the water. There was a wound on the eagle's neck. Arun took the aim, said a prayer, and launched an arrow directly at the eagle's wound. The arrow hit its mark, then the eagle collapsed into the water and drowned. The cruel eagle had finally been slain. The Serpent King was ecstatic. He embraced Arun and said, "My child, thank you for your kindness and bravery. I can never repay you for favor, nor will my kingdom and my subjects ever forget you." The city and all serpent folk celebrated victorious with a gusto. The king took Arun on a personal tour of the kingdom. Arun noticed that in every home, people were cooking something he had never seen. It was cream and beige in color. The serpents requested him to stay in the city for some time, but Arun wanted to go and explore more of the world. At the farewell lunch, on the final day of his stay, Arun noticed that the same thing had been cooked earlier was being served in the varieties. "What is this?" he asked. "This is wheat. It originates from grass. We only eat the grain we obtain from during the festival or special occasions like today. We are honoring you by serving the wheat," explained the king. The queen joined and said, "We make variety of dishes using the wheat. It is a vital food and easy to eat and digest. It also gives us lot of energy." Arun tried it and enjoyed it more than anything else it had been served. When he was about to leave, the queen came and presented him with bags of gold nuggets, diamonds, rubies, and emeralds. The king said, "This is our gift to you." However, Arun politely refused the gift. He said, "I don't need these expensive stones or metals. If you really want to give me something, please give me a handful of wheat seed and I can plant and help my fellow men enjoy it too." The king and queen exchanged looks. They had never shared with any humans before. The Serpent King said, "Gratitude is the highest representation of the civilization. We will share some wheat seeds with you and teach you how to grow it. Let your world also enjoy this. Whenever you eat wheat, remember that we shared our secret with you and that you helped us through a tough time."
The king handed over a bag of wheat seed, and soon Arun left the serpent kingdom and returned to the land, bringing the secret of wheat along with him. Story 3: The Magic Beans, Jaggu and the Beanstalk. The next morning, Ajji called the children and said, "The lockdown has begun. We should obey the Prime Minister and do what country needs. Each of you must wash your hand multiple times a day and avoid touching your face, mouth, nose with your hands. If you feel unwell, tell me immediately. No helpers will come to work in our house from today," added Ajja. "That means we have to help Ajji." "Yes," said Ajji. "Now I will rely on you to help around the house, and chores will be assigned everyone. Kamlu will look after the kitchen, and I will be the monitor running of the household." The children nodded, slightly anxious but unable to fully comprehend the seriousness of the lockdown. Ajji gave clear instructions. "Raghu, you will help Ajja to clean and vacuum the house. Krishna will help me with dishwashing. Anushka and Aditi will help me with laundry. Meenu, you will assist Kamlu Ajji in kitchen and gather and wash vegetables too. You never know, kids, you might find it fun to gather to work," said Ajja, trying to lighten the mood as he saw the worried faces. The children nodded and split up to take the cares of the chores. Meenu went with Kamlu Ajji to gather vegetables from the garden. She was very happy to see tomatoes, pumpkins, greens and different type of gourds. But there were no cabbage, cauliflower and potato. "Look at the beans," exclaimed Kamlu Ajji. "They are fresh. Go ahead, Meenu. Pick them from the bush. It is very easy. Today we will eat tomato rice with roti and a sabzi made of beans." Meenu started gathering the beans, and soon her basket was full. They came home and Meenu began washing the beans in the kitchen sink. Everyone were busy working in the house, cleaning, cooking, washing dishes or doing laundry. Once the chores were done, the children gathered to play and saw Ajji with animated discussion for Ajja for a long time. After some time, she announced, "Kids, it is important to help others at this time. Ajja and I are thinking of making dry ration kits so that we can give them to the people who can't afford it but will need during the lockdown period. Each kit will contain rations for 21 days. Rahmat Chacha will come home in his jeep to pick up the kits, but we can't let him inside because we must practice social distancing. We will keep the kits by the gate and he will pick up them. This activity will add more work for us," said Ajja, "but we have a solution. Vishnu Kaka is out for station and his trusted helper Damu is in the house next door. I spoke them both. Damu will come to the mornings, help us in packings and household chores, and go back in the evening to Kaka's house to sleep. He will not go anywhere else. Since Damu is alone, he quite liked the idea because of being with us." Ajji smiled at Ajja and said, "Come, let's eat lunch after packaging." After lunch, Raghu said, "I want to sit and relax a few minutes. Why don't we take all the break? You can tell us a story." "The story can wait, Raghu, but hunger cannot." "Come, let's sit and pack. Will you help me?" said Ajji. "We all will help, Ajji," clamored the children. "My Ajji is very nice and kind. I like it that helping others is more important to her than other things," thought Krishna, feeling proud of her Ajji. Just then, Damu entered the house. He greeted children quickly and helped Ajji bring out huge bags of rice, dal, oil bottles, salt, sugar, along with packet of masala from storeroom. Ajji had got these from the market 2 days ago. Each child grabbed a bag to work with and started putting the ingredients into smaller 1 kilo bags. Ajja or Ajji carried a medium-sized cardboard box to the children, and each one added 1 small bag of their ingredient to it. Once all items were in the box, Damu packed it and kept it to the main gate. The children really enjoyed making at the small packets and did not think it is a work at all. Time passed quickly and soon it was early evening. Ajja counted the box and announced, "We have made 200 boxes!" Soon Rahmat Chacha also came and quickly loaded the boxes in his jeep and took them away and distributed. The childs were excited and felt happy about lending a hand. "Give us more, we want to do more," said Krishna. Yes, we do. I want to call my mother and tell my mother how much I have helped," screamed Anushka. "We have done a lot of work for the today. I have ordered more rations. Will be here by tomorrow. So let's stop for now and continue tomorrow," replied Ajja. After they had cleaned up, the children gathered around the Ajji as she was washing her hands. Tell us a story now. Maybe I will tell you after the dinner, said Ajji. I'm still full for lunch, said Raghu. Anushka said, me too. The bean sabzi was excellent. I ate three bowls. It was easy to pluck from the bush, said Meenu. Perhaps we can pluck more tomorrow, but if Kamlu Ajji tells me to get coconut, I can get those by myself. They are too high. Why are coconuts found at the top of tree while beans grow in shrubs? Wondered Raghu. There is a reason for that, wiping her hands. What is the reason? It all began with a beanstalk as she sat and began her story. The story by Ajji. Anita and Jaggu lived on the farm. Anita worked hard, but her husband was very lazy. She would tell her husband every day, if you help me, we can do a lot together. I can't do everything by myself. We are poor farmers. Please lend me a hand so that we can lead a better life. Jaggu, however, wouldn't listen. Poor Anita did whatever that she could. She worked hard to grow vegetables and sold them at the market. The money was just enough to make the ends meet, and somehow Anita managed to take care of the house and their basic needs. One day, while returning from the market, there was a loud thunder and heavy downpour. Anita was passing by a small house, decided to ask for a shelter. She saw an old man cooking. He invited her and sit down in the veranda and waited for the rain to stop. When the rain showed no signs of stopping, the man said, please come inside, young lady. Have a meal before you go. Anita was thankful for his kindness and gave him the leftover vegetable as she was carrying back to the home. The rain refused to subside. While speaking to each other, Anita told the man about the farm and her problem. She didn't have anyone to whom she could share her deepest thought and problem, and she felt comfortable in the company of his sweet and gentle old man. He smiled and listened to her carefully. After an hour, the rain stopped. Before she left, the old man gave her one seed of a bean. He said, Anita, this is unusual seed. Grow this and you will get a delicious vegetable. You can sell it in the market. This will fetch you more money since it will be a new kind of vegetable. Anita thanked the old man, took the seed with her, and went home. The next day, she planted the seed. Within a month, seed grew into a creeper. Green beans began sprouting and it shot upwards. But only till Anita's hand could be reached, she stood on the tiptoe. The creeper, however, kept going up and up so high that Anita could not see where it ended. Since the vegetable was new and delicious, people bought her produced very quickly and she was able to sell off all of it. Anita was happy with her earnings and was grateful for the good food and the repairs she could do now around the house. Now lazy Jaggu became very curious about these new beans. He started getting up early, not to help his wife, but to see and monitor the beanstalk. How tall do you think the stalk is? He asked. I don't know and I'm not interested. I get enough beans to sell at the market, she replied. Jaggu, however, kept pestering. Ask that old man to give you some more seed, he suggested. There are no seed in this bean, but if the old man give you some, we can plant more and more, get rich. No, I'm content with what I have. Don't be greedy, Jaggu. We have enough. Jaggu gave up on her and went in search of the old man. The day that Anita had the seed home, she had told about the house where she met him. Soon enough, Jaggu found the house, but to her dismay, there was nobody inside. Perhaps I should climb the beanstalk instead and see how far it goes up, he thought. But I can't do when Anita is at home. She only tried to stop me. So he returned home and waited for Anita to leave the house. After a few days, Anita went to the market to sell the beans. The moment she left, Jaggu began climbing the beanstalk. After what seemed like hours, he reached at the top and followed a trail and house into a clouds. The door was closed. He knocked. Knock, knock, knock. A man's voice came. Who is it? Why have you come here? Sir, I am Anita's husband, Jaggu. What do you want? Jaggu hesitated. Why should I ask for more beans? He thought, more beans mean I have to work hard. I'll ask for money straight away. So he said, money, I want money. Sure, said the voice, now go away. Jaggu went back to the beanstalk and climbed down all the way bottom. When he entered the house, he saw a box overflowing with money. Suddenly he felt disappointed. I should have for gold nuggets instead of money. It would have been worth much more. Anita came back home, but he didn't tell her what had happened the day. Instead, he managed to get with the money for a few days and waited for her to go market. But soon he changed his mind. What is the use of nuggets
Those are not important. I must become a richest man. That is the best way to trick the man who lives up there. The next time Anita went to the market, Jaggu climbed up the beanstalk again. He reached to the top, followed the trail, and in the house, in the clouds, the door knocked. Knock, 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 knock. A man's voice asked, "Who is it? Why have you come here?" "Sir, I am Anita's husband, Jaggu." "What do you want?" "I want to be the richest person in the village." "Sure," said the voice. "Now go away and don't come here again." Jaggu climbed down feeling happy and carefree. He knew he was going to be the richest person. This time he told Anita what happened. And when she came back home, Anita wasn't pleasant. "I don't want to participate or use the money you have received in this way. Do what you want, but leave out of me," she replied. Jaggu was least bothered. He began wondering what he should do now he was rich. He began inviting other rich people of the village to his house for meals. Anita refused to join in and continued her work quietly. One day, Jaggu hosted a big dinner for all his new friends in the palatial house. However, they declined because they had another invitation from the same day. All of them said, "The king is coming to the village, so we should accept his dinner invitation first." "That means the king is most important than rich," he thought. "Perhaps I should go back and ask that man to top the beanstalk to make me more powerful." The next time Anita went out, Jaggu climbed the beanstalk again. He reached to the top and followed the trail to the house in the clouds. The door was closed. He knocked. Knock, knock, knock. A man's voice asked, "Who is it? Why have you come here?" "Sir, I am Anita's husband, Jaggu." "What do you want?" "I want to become the most powerful king in the land." "Sure," said the voice. "Now go away and don't come here again and again." Jaggu's wish was granted once again, and he became the most powerful king in the land. Anita, however, refused to become her queen and stayed back in her house. She continued to growing and selling the beans. One day, Jaggu asked her, "We have so much money that 7th generation can live and thrive on it. Why do you still work hard?" Anita knew her husband greasy and laziness make him pay a heavy price one day. Out of loud, she said, "Your status has been earned through the magic, while mine has been through hard work. Mine will remain with me forever." Jaggu shook his head, unable to comprehend truth in his wife's words. One day, Jaggu went to meet the emperor of the land. The minister said, "Please wait, he can't meet you now." "Why?" "What he is doing?" demanded Jaggu. "He is praying." "Does he do every day?" asked Jaggu. "Yes, sir, every morning. God is the most powerful of all, and everyone must bow down to the divine presence," said the minister. "Even the emperor must bow down to the God. So why don't I become God?" he thought. So the next time Anita went out, Jaggu went back to his old house and climbed the beanstalk again. He reached at the top, followed the trail to the house in the clouds. The door was closed. He knocked. Knock, knock, knock. A man's voice asked, "Who is it? Why have you come here?" "Sir, I am Anita's husband." "What do you want?" asked the voice, sounding angry. "I promise I won't come again if you make me God. I want to become God. Please," pleaded Jaggu. The voice laughed merrily. "Ha ha ha ha! God is everywhere in the universe. He is kind and compassionate, and an individual can attain godliness only by doing great work. You are greedy and lazy fellow. I have had it with your wishes. You deserve nothing." Jaggu felt an invisible kick to his rear end, and he fell down from the clouds. He landed in the front yard of his small house. There was bruises everywhere in his body. The beanstalk disappeared, and only a shrub remained with the beans that Anita had grown. Disappointed and hurt, Jaggu went inside the house. When Anita came home, she was shocked to her wounded husband in a small shrub in the yard. The beanstalk had vanished too. She realized what happened. Worried that she would run out of beans, she went to the shrub and plucked a bean. To her surprise, this time the bean has seed. "What happened?" she demanded. Jaggu told her own story. "You deserve it," remarked Anita. "When you don't work hard for your living, you don't value what you receive. You have forgotten that we are farmers. Our duty is to farm and enjoy our produce. God has taught you a good lesson. Now forget the past and come with me. I will turn root to abuses. Despite everything, God is kind. He had given us seeds so we can replicate them and continue to earn enough money." Anita opened her box of savings. She said, "This is all I could save. Let us use this money for work hard and plant more bean shrubs. It is God gifted to us, and as long as we take care of it and use it wisely, He will have us more." Thus Jaggu mended in his ways, and together the couple grew even a lot of beans and led a healthy and content life. Even today, beans are grown in shrubs and not the beanstalk that reaches the sky. Wow, that's a really why beans grow in shrubs, Ajji, said Anushka, wide-eyed. Nobody knows for sure, but I always this story to be true, said Ajji. Beans are my favorite vegetable, announced Meenu. Ajji gave her an affectionate look and smiled. Story 4. The Goddess of Luck. A few days later, Rahmat Chacha called up Ajja and said,
Thank you for your food kits. It is all being distributed today and will help a lot of people. I have also received several requests for masks from many people. Will you be able to help with that too? If you can, please let me know. We can pick them up and distribute them in the slums. I will check and call you back, Rahmat assured Ajja as he kept the phone down. He turned to Ajji. What do you think? Do we have the material to make masks? Of course, I know how to make them, but I need cloth of a comfortable and breathable material, said Ajji. Suddenly, Shiti called, I bought a lot of dhotis a few weeks ago to distribute people during the card festival. The material is comfortable and easy to wash. I can use that to make masks. We can start doing that today. If they want more, tell Rahmat to bring some more material and keep it side out the house. We'll leave it the garden for 24 hours. Then I will pick it up and use that as well. Kamlu Ajji joined her. Her work had been eased because Damu was helping her in the household chores, even though she was still the main cook. The children were helping, but they still needed a lot of monitoring, which was not always possible. Damu's presence was a great help to both the Ajjis. Kamlu Ajji said, Come, let's work on it together after lunch. I will cut the material and you can stitch. This way it will be faster. That's a wonderful idea, Ajji. All the children gathered around the sewing machine after lunch, but nobody wanted to ask Ajji to tell a story. Ajja called out the room next to the door. Ajji cannot tell a story today because she had to focus on stitching. So does Kamlu Ajji. So I will tell you a story. The children ran to their grandfather's room, all excited. It was an old room like him. It had tall ceilings and an ancient fan. Ajja sat on a cozy chair. You can tell us a story? Asked Raghu, slightly astonished. Ajja had never told them a story before. Yes, of course, I can, Raghu. After all, I'm married to Ajji, am I not? Come, sit, winged Ajja. The room was nice and comfortable, and the children sat around him in anticipation. Ajja began, I am only telling you this story so you realize how important it is to lend a hand. When we help others, things happen the way they should. Almost as if someone is helping you too. What does that mean, Ajja? Asked Meenu. Ajja smiled. Mahesh and his wife lived in a village with their 2 daughters. Though both husband and wife worked hard, they barely managed to make ends meet. Mahesh was always worried about the money for his daughters' education and their future. He attempted many things to make money but failed time and again. He thought that luck was not on his side. One day Mahesh had a dream. A man came to him and said, Mahesh, pray to the goddess of luck, Adrushta Lakshmi. If you pray her, she will remove all obstacles in your way and help you prosper. Where do I find her? Asked Mahesh. You must go deep into the forest, climb a big mountain, and you will find there and meditate. She will come and help you. When he woke up next morning, Mahesh told his wife about the dream and she encouraged him to follow the instructions. The same day, Mahesh set out for the forest. On his journey, he saw 2 horses. They were hungry and upset. Mahesh sat under the tree nearby and ate his lunch. He shared whatever he had with the horses. They asked, Oh young man, where are you going? I am in search of the goddess of luck. I have been unlucky many times in my adventures and would like the boon of luck from her, replied Mahesh. Will you ask her something for us? We have been here for several years. It is hard us to find food and we are tired. Wherever we go, we encounter wild animals and there is barely any grass around. If you meet the goddess, ask her where we can get the good grassland so that we can move there. That is all we want. Mahesh nodded, saddened by the plight of the horses. He walked for a long time until he ran into an almost dead mango tree. Mahesh sat under it and later slept in shade for some time. When he was about to resume his journey, the mango tree asked, Oh young man, where are you going? Mahesh explained his mission.
Will you ask the goddess for a favor on my behalf? All my siblings are healthy and give juicy fruits. Humans, animals, birds really enjoy their foods. I was born with them, but as you can see, I'm half dead and half alive. I've no flowers and no fruits to give. No matter how much I try, I feel that my life has no purpose. Can anything be done for me? Mahesh promised to ask the goddess and move on. Then he came across the mountain the man in his dream had mentioned. He climbed and climbed until he reached a Tilla pond. Many birds were crying around a dry lake. They asked him, "Oh, young man, where are you going?" Mahesh explained his mission. The birds said, "We always get rain most of the year, but we can only drink from the lake. But look at it now, it dries up every summer. Somehow we can manage to get food, but water is very hard to get. Will you ask the goddess if there is any way to get water throughout the year?" Mahesh promised and continued his journey. At last, he reached the top of the mountain. There he began to pray sincerely. After a long time, the goddess of luck appeared. She said, "Mahesh, I am happy with your devotion. You have come all the way through the forest and climbed a difficult mountain. I can bless you with 3 boons. Please ask." Suddenly, Mahesh thought of the horses with no grass to eat. He remembered the mango tree and the suffering of the birds. He said, "Mother, on this journey to find you, I have come across a being in a 3 difficult situation. Please tell me how to solve their problems." She smiled and said, "I know." She continued, "Their problems are simple to solve. In the area where horses reside, there is a stone under a tree. The stone can only be removed by a person who is pure of the heart and who thinks of everyone's happiness. If such a person removes the stone, the area will be filled with grass that it will last the horse a lifetime." Mahesh looked at her with love and admiration, wondering how she knew the detail of his journey. "Below the mango tree, there is a box. Remove it and the tree will bear more fruits and flowers than any other tree around. There is another box near the side of the lake where the birds reside. Dig the box out and the water will remain in the lake throughout the year. Remember, Mahesh, carry the boxes back to your home and open them in the company of your wife." Mahesh was happy to hear the solutions. He thanked the goddess and started on his return journey. First, he reached the lake. Then he removed the box easily and instantly the water began flowing into the lake. The birds cheered and thanked him. Mahesh quickly went on his way. Next, Mahesh went to the mango tree and removed a big box from the ground. The mango tree thanked him and Mahesh continued on his journey back home. Finally, he met horses and noticed a big stone under one of the tree. He wondered, "Where will I find a virtuous person to remove this big stone? There is nobody here but me. Let me try." To his surprise, he was able to remove the stone with ease, and as suddenly he saw the grass begin to sprout. He had never thought of himself as a pure of heart, but the goddess of luck knew that he hadn't asked anything for himself but for others. Then who could be more virtuous than him? At last, Mahesh reached home and narrated the events of his journey to the wife. "What's in the boxes?" she asked, puzzled. "I did not open them, my dear. The goddess wanted us to open them together," he said. When they opened the boxes, they found gold in one box and diamond in another. Mahesh cried out with happiness and knew that he would be able to take better care of his daughters and give them an excellent education. That is how the goddess of luck always knows how to choose a good person. Story number 5. A Sibling Story. Whenever Ajja put the television on, there were more updates about COVID-19 cases and the lockdown statuses in different states. Things were looking bleaker than before as cases were on the rise. One morning, Ajja woke up with a pain in one of his legs. Usually, he massaged some oil in his leg by himself. It always helped him feel better. But today, Kamlu Ajji insisted on bringing the oil in a bowl. "Put your legs on my lap," she ordered him. Ajja obediently did as told. Kamlu Ajji began massaging the leg that was hurting. Her face softened. "Do you remember how I used to massage you when you had back pain during your younger days?" Ajja nodded. He looked like a small child in his legs sprawled over his sister's lap. The children found it amusing. "Ajja, you are old, but you look like you are one of us," giggled Meenu and made fun of him. A brother and sister's relationship is very sweet and one celebrated all over the India. said Ajji, coming to Ajja's rescue.
Yes, added Ajja. Every year, Kamlu and I exchange gifts on a certain festival. Do you know which festival I am talking about?
Are you talking about Raksha Bandhan?
Said Raghu. It is such a big festival, and Meenu always takes a big gift from me and gives me a small rakhi. Ajja smiled. It is not about the big gift or the small delicate thread of rakhi. The thread is meant to reassure your sister that you will always be with her when she is facing difficult times. Even history recognizes of this festival. It is believed that Rani Karnavati sent a rakhi to Mughal Emperor Humayun when the enemies were trying to attack, and Humayun rushed to protect her. But I'm not talking about the thread of rakhi here. Then what festival you are talking about? Asked Anushka. Nag Panchami, said Ajja. His eyes twinkled and he turned to Ajji. Come on, tell the children the story behind why we celebrate Nag Panchami in the south and Bahubij in Maharashtra. Ajji smiled and began narrating the story. One day, King of Avanti was traveling on the horseback and decided to take a break after riding. He sat on a big stone that lay at the side of the road and took out his bottle of water to drink. Suddenly, his eyes fell on the stone under his feet. It was in the shape of a snake and was red in color. It fascinated him because he had never seen anything like it. This looked precious and unique, he thought. He picked it up and brought it back to the palace. Once he was home, he gave it to his wife and told her to keep it safe. The next day, he told the queen to open the box that held the stone. To their surprise, the handsome prince with the beautiful turban came out of the box. There were a big jewel on the top of his turban. The queen was shocked and bewildered, asked, Who are you? Why are you here? The prince smiled. Do not ask me questions. Your Highness, tell me what you want to done. I will make it sure happens. The king hesitated. However, the queen did not. She said, There is a witch Ursura that lives near the mountain in our kingdom. He is the cause of a lot of trouble in our subjects. Through we have tried, it seems to be impossible to kill him. Prince, if you can help with this, I will be grateful. Give me a horse and a sword, said the prince. That is more enough. I can manage the rest. The king agreed, but also insisted on sending a few soldiers with him. When the group reached the bottom of the mountain, the Asura appeared, ready to fight. The prince fought him alone, and within a few minutes he managed to slay the terrible Asura. Within hours, the prince and the troop were back to the king's palace. The prince was humble about his victory, but the soldiers accompanying him described the sequence event and his extraordinary valor. A month passed, and soon soldiers from neighboring land invaded the king. The prince said to king, Do not worry, sir. I will take care of this problem. Alone he fought them all and defeated the enemy. With that, the news about his brave spread to different land, and nobody dared to invade the kingdom again. In the meantime, the king had a beautiful daughter who had fallen in love with the prince. She shared her desire to marry him, but the king refused. He said, No, my child, the prince is handsome and great warrior, but we know very little about him. How can I give my daughter to an unknown prince? The princess insisted, But father, I will refuse to marry someone else. Time passed, and the king realized that his daughter would not change her mind. He gave up and arranged for the wedding for the couple and the prince's consent. One day there was a festival in the king. All the brides wore their best clothing in their final jewelry and gathered in the palace. A bride said, My mother-in-law had sent me this sari. Another one said, I got this bangle from my husband's sister. Suddenly, princess felt sad. Everything she had or wearing was given her father or mother. She hadn't received a gift from her husband or his parents. She felt so insecure at this sudden discovery that she became disheartened and sad. That night, she asked her husband, Tell me more about yourself. Where are your parents? Do you have any sibling? I would love to meet them. I want to show everyone that you have the family that cares about us. The prince smiled and said, Don't ask me these questions. Leave things as they are. But she didn't. The princess hounded him every day at night. One day, the couple went for a picnic near the river. The princess went into the water, and all of a sudden, She was in a terrible mood. She turned to the prince with a determined look in her eyes and threatened, "Tell me who are your parents, otherwise I will drown myself." The prince, tired of his questions, said, "You don't need to jump and die, and I cannot answer your questions." He jumped into the water and drowned himself. The turban, along with the red jewel, disappeared somewhere under the water. The princess was shocked. She burst out crying. He had never told her who he was, and but stubbornness had gone into her own way. She felt stupid at her silly actions that had caused her to lose her husband. For the next few months, she neither ate or not slept properly. A friend who lived near the same river came to visit her one day and said, "Princess, I had a very interesting experience yesterday. I still don't know that it was a dream or me being half asleep as I rested in my garden at home. It was quite warm outside in the evening when I saw a snake coming out of the water. It drew a big circle on the ground and transformed into a man. Many other snakes followed the suit and took the form of humans. Then some of them laid a carpet on the floor, and finally a king and the prince arrived with their entourage. The prince had a red stone on his majestic turban, but he looked very pale. I couldn't see clearly, but he reminded me of your husband." The man and woman began talking to each other. One of the women said the prince had to stay on for earth for some time because he lost his stone, but since he had returned from his land, he is unhappy. In fact, he is downright miserable. Even his beloved sister Maya hasn't been able to cheer up. "Why doesn't he go back there?" someone else suggested. "He can't go on his own. Someone has to pull him up out of the circle." The discussion died down. They all danced and partied for some time, and they all changed into snake and returned to the river. The dream made the prince realize that her husband was the prince of serpents who lived underwater. She decided to go with her friend to the same location next day. Once the princess had reached the spot, she hid behind a bush and waited to see if the snakes would appear again. Soon enough, the snakes appeared with their king and prince turned into men and women, and the party began in the marked circle. The prince, her husband, stood all alone in a corner. He was near her. The princess saw her chance and pulled him out of the circle with a sudden jerk of her hand. The music stopped. The merry dance stopped. Everyone stared at her. The princess smiled at her with love. The princess bowed low to the king of the serpents. "Sir, please excuse me. I love my husband and I know it was wrong on my part to insist on learning about his background. He was unable to tell me the truth, but I know everything now. My husband loves me a lot, and that is why he has been dejected since he returned. Please, I urge you to allow us live happily and in peace. As a mark of respect and love for your gesture, we will always celebrate a festival in your honor for 2 days and feed you and your subjects with milk. We will call you Nag Devta, and you will be equal to the status of God." "No!" cried Maya. "You can't take my brother to the land of humans." "But he can always come to visit you," said the princess. The prince shook his hand. "No, it is not allowed," said Maya. "If he goes back, he will lose the citizenship of our kingdom. My brother and I are very close, and we are always there for each other. I cannot let him go to your land forever." The king, however, smiled with a wave of his hand, and he silenced Maya. He said to the princess, "My dear girl, I appreciate your courage and your true love for the prince. Had you failed in your attempt to get your husband back, you would have a difficult life ahead. As an exception, I will allow my son to be the subject of both kingdoms as long as he continues to serve wherever he is. He can visit us whenever he needs us. You have one husband, but I have many children. I will manage to run the kingdom. May God bless you." The princess thanked the king profusely and turned to Maya. "You can come and visit your brother whenever you want. It will be wonderful to have you with us. I have much work to do here, but I will come to see my brother for 2 days every year," said Maya, smiling at her. Thus, the prince went back to the land and stayed with the princess. Together, they led a long and happy life. From that day, 2 days in the rainy season are dedicated to the worship of snakes. This festival are known as Nag Panchami, and it is a custom for sisters to visit their brothers' home during this time. Story number 6. A handful of grains.
The children were now getting used to a new life. They were learning to tackle the challenges life posed and were helping each other as the days progressed. The next morning, Anushka's chores included bringing flowers from garden for Ajji. When she went to the garden, she saw a beautiful rose. Then her eyes fell on a jasmine flower, and then champaka flower growing on a tree. She thought of climbing the tree, but a few seconds later she saw bakula flowers on the ground and gave up. She got confused about which flowers to pick up and sat on the ground, staring at the beautiful choices of the flowers around her. 20 minutes later, Ajji walked into the garden looking for her. Did you finish gathering the flowers? She asked. I wanted to, but what happened? My hand started to hurt. Anushka tried to make an excuse. No. I meant my leg started to hurt. Really? Grimaced Ajji, knowing full well that Anushka was not suffering from any pain at all. Should I tell Kamlu Ajji to massage your leg? No, replied Anushka quickly. You don't pick flowers with your leg. I know you are making excuses. Come on. Now you are earned Champa. Who is Champa? Said Anushka. I'll tell you all story, but then you must gather flowers, Anushka. After that, I must go to finish some other work, said Ajji. Anushka nodded her head vigorously and called out to the other children. She yelled, Come, Ajji is telling us a story. You can help me gather the flowers while she is talking. Story. Champa was a little girl who lived in village with her parents. She would spend most of the time with playing a little mouse called Minnie. Her mother would often get upset at this. She would scold her. Why are you wasting your time with a little mouse? After all, it is an animal that is of no use. Champa, however, would never listen. One day, while playing with Minnie, her mother called out her and said, Champa, it's almost time for lunch. Bring me some dry wood from the backyard. I can only cook after you bring me the wood. Champa was hungry, so she immediately went to the backyard to fetch some woods. But alas, the wood there was all half wet. There was no dry wood at all. Why is the wood wet even in this scorching summer? Champa wondered aloud. To her surprise, a log of wood spoke to her. Oh, Champa, I would have dried and been some for use of your family. But look at the grass around me. It hasn't been cut or cleared in ages. That is why always shade here, and the sun rays don't reach to me at all. Champa was surprised in the log's words, and she glanced down the grass surrounding the wood. It was true. The moment she looked at the grass spoke. Oh, what I can do? I don't get the sun rays either. That is why I am wet. Champa looked up at the sky. The sun was not shining brightly and said, I wish I could send enough heat to reach at the grass, but the clouds are blocking my rays. Champa now understood what was going on. She looked at the cloud. I wish I could move ahead, but allow the sun rays through, said the clouds. But wind blow me this way. She looked at the wind, who said, I'm sorry, but I'm helpless. Your king has built such a palace that it has forced me to change my direction. Moreover, he has blocked the road door right at the top of the palace. If he opens the door, I can pass. In the far distance, Champa saw the king standing on the balcony in the palace. She could see the shadow of the door at the top. She looked at the king, who said, I wish I could open that door, but the queen hasn't given me permission to do so. Champa looked at the queen. She was sitting near to the door with a parrot nearby. The queen said, That is my special room and I don't have time to open that door because I am busy listening to the stories of this parrot who has come from a distant land. Champa looked at the parrot. The bird was different and beautiful. Usually parrots are green with red beaks. But this parrot, however, was multicolored. For a few seconds, she forgot herself and stared at the parrot. Parrot said, I live in the land of far away on a green tree that has plenty of flowers and fruits through the year. One branch of a tree is very bent, very close to the water and lake. The lord of the lake scares me. He keeps threatening to drown the branch. So I flew away in the search of home and came here. I know countless stories and I have seen beautiful things. So I tell stories and describe more those things to the queen. Still, home is home and I miss it. Champa thought of the land far, far away, the lake that the parrot had mentioned. Suddenly, the lake and its lord appeared in her vision. The lord said, I am always in danger from an elephant who threatens to drink my all water and turn me dry every time he is upset. So I get frustrated and I mean to the little bird that sits to the near me on the branch of the tree. Champa's thoughts turned to the elephant. He appeared in her mind, worried. He said, I am gentle vegetarian and I like to keep myself most of the time. I like to spend my time with my family. I don't have any enemies. Though I have might, I don't use it unless it is required. Unfortunately, there is a serpent that wants to bite me. He sits on my tail and sometimes I can't get him off no matter what I do. He hisses and intimidates me so much that I'm not upset with the lake, but on some days I just want to go in the lake and drown myself in its water. I want to drink all the water and spray over whole my body and hope the serpent will wash away. In my heart, I love the lake. It gives me cool water during the summer, but I don't know how else to try the grit of that serpent. Champa was surprised. Even the mighty elephant was scared of a serpent. The serpent appeared in her thoughts and stared to shed the tears. He said, I don't want to harm anyone. I love enjoying far away from civilization, but people want to kill me the moment they see me. Besides, I'm non-poisonous sick, but my size is huge. There is a mouse in Potter's shop nearby and I would love to eat it and satiate my hunger, but she disappears so quickly. She is the only mouse I have seen in this area. I can eat other things, but eating a mouse is a feast. Every time I find her, the Potter comes with a stick and tries to slaughter me. That is when I get scared and find refuge on elephant's tail. A Potter is no match to an elephant's strength. Champa then thought of the Potter. He was speaking to his wife. The serpent has ruined all the work that I did in this month. Just the other day I found him hiding under the pots. I tried to shoo him away, but he upset my pots and broke most of them. We cannot take the risk of letting serpent roam around the house. We have baby after all, and I'm worried that the woolly snake will cause harm, and I will continue in searching for him under the heap of pots where it is cooler. I'm sure he will find a comfortable to stay there and hide. Suddenly, Champa noticed a mouse sitting in a corner of a house. The mouse whispered, these people don't know that the serpent comes to eat me, but I'm smarter than the snake. So I go and hide under one of the pots in a tiny hole. And the serpent look for me everywhere and break many pots. Anyway, I come to this Potter's house only to find 4 grains of rice to eat. If I get that elsewhere, I won't ever need to go the Potter's house again. Hearing that, Champa turned and ran inside her house. She brought a handful of rice and gave it to Minnie. In her mind, she spoke to the mouse sitting in the Potter's house. I'm giving you some rice to Minnie. She will give you eat 4 grains a day, but don't trouble anyone anymore. When the rice is finished, tell Minnie and I will send you more. The mouse was very happy and thanked Champa. Minnie ran off to give the rice to the mouse. The serpent never saw the mouse after that, and so he stopped going to Potter's house. He went to another forest in search of any other mouse. The Potter was happy and his pots and his family were safe. The elephant too was happy to be left alone. Now the serpent had gone. He thanked the Lord of Lake and promised to never trouble him anymore. The Lord was happy and sent a message to the parrot. Your family has been back, our companion for generation. So come back, just don't make your home on the branch that touches me. Instead, do a little higher so that we can all coexist and live together. The bird thanked the queen and decided to go back home to the tree. The queen wanted to give the parrot some jewelry, but he refused. No, I don't need the jewels. You have taken care of me all these days and I have enjoyed my stay. I will take memories of our time together home with me. Goodbye, I will go now, he said and flew away. With the bird's departure, the queen had a lot of time to spare. She realized that she hadn't opened the door at the top of the palace for a long time, which the king had been asking her to do for a while now. She opened the door and a strong gust of wind came and threw and pushed the clouds. The clouds floated away and the sun started shining brightly. The grass below got plenty of sunshine and soon became dry, as did the wood sitting on it. Champa's mother came out in the house soon after, saw Champa standing in her backyard doing nothing. She nudged her. Hey Champa, I asked you to bring firewood. What are you doing here? Daydreaming? Mother, you don't know where I have been. Do you know that the 4 grains of rice can change the world? Please give me a handful of rice every week. My Minnie should not suffer like the others. Champa's mother had no idea what her daughter was talking about, but like a mother does, she smiled and gave her a handful of rice. Story number 7, The Mouse That Became a Mouse. The night was pitch dark and the children were sitting on the steps near veranda. There was a coolness in the air despite the summer setting in. Suddenly, Aditi yelled, Are those fireflies? See how they twinkle and disappear. Ajji lit a lamp nearby. The light from matchstick is stronger, she said. But a candle's is even stronger, Ajji, said Krishna. Raghu flashed the torch of his mobile phone and said, Now that is more powerful even than a candle, said Meenu. Every light have its own duty, said Ajji. You can't enjoy the firefly during the day, and the same goes for moonlight. Every source of light has its own glow and purpose. Come, I will tell you a story about who is most powerful. Remember, you are your own person and you are powerful exactly the way you are. Anushka looked at her confused. Tell me, Ajji, asked her. Which light do you enjoy the most? The one from firefly, a matchstick, or a candle? The fireflies, of course, said Anushka. The others nodded their heads in agreement. Why? Because it is natural and fascinating, Ajji, said Meenu. Ajji smiled. The story. Once upon a time, there lived a sage in an ashram in the Himalayas. One day, while he was meditating, he heard someone running towards him. The noise disturbed his concentration and he opened his eyes to see a mouse sweating heavily and trembling with fear. The sage was compassionate. What happened, little mouse? Why are you scared? He asked. Sir, I have came to your ashram as I have heard your great yogic powers. I am being chased by my eternal enemy, the cat. Don't worry, you will be safe here, assured the sage. But I can't stay here for forever. Will you do me a favor? Tell me, mouse. Please turn me into a cat, then I won't be scared of them and will lead a happy life. The sage smiled. That is not true, but I will fulfill your desire. He blessed the mouse and mouse turned cat, happily ran away. A few uneventful days passed. But then again, one day the sage heard a noise that interrupted his meditation. When he opened his eyes, the same mouse into cat, sweating heavily and trembling with fear. What is the matter? Asked the sage. Sir, I enjoyed my days as a cat for some time, but now I'm scared of the dog that chases me around. I did not know that dog hate cats. What do you want? Please turn me into a dog, then I won't be scared of dogs and will lead a happy life. The sage smiled. That is not true, but I will fulfill your desire. The cat now turned into a dog and happily ran away. Some more days passed before the sage heard someone running towards him again, breaking his meditation. He opened his eyes to see the mouse into cat, which was converted into dog, sweated heavily and trembling with fear. What is the matter? Asked the sage. There is an animal called lion. He is the king of the forest. He is huge and powerful. When he roars, everyone gets scared. He can eat anyone and I am only a small animal after all, said the dog. What do you want? Said the sage. Please turn me into a lion, then I will rule the forest and will lead a happy life. The sage smiled. That is not true, but I will fulfill your desire. The dog then turned into a roaring lion and happily ran away. This time, month passed before the sage heard a familiar sound of someone running towards him. He stopped his meditating and opened his eyes. The same mouse into cat into dog, which was converted into lion, stood before him, sweating heavily and itching all over. What is the matter? Asked the sage. I have enjoyed my reign in the forest for some time. It was wonderful. Recently, though, there are small insects called ants entering in my skins and my ears. If they'd been big animals, I would have killed them instantly, but these ants are so small that I can't even see them. The itching on my body and ear is unbearable, said the lion. What do you want? Please turn me into an ant and I will lead an happy life.
The sage smiled. That is not true, but I will fulfill your desire. The lion promptly turned into an ant and happily scurried away. Weeks passed before once again the sage heard someone running towards him. He paused, meditating, and opened his eyes. It was the same mouse into cat, into dog, into lion, which was converted into ant, limping. What is the matter? Asked the sage. Do you remember me, sir? I am the mouse, cat, dog, lion, which was converted into ant. I had a good but an extremely hard-working life. We worked in teams and I loved it. We built a beautiful castle for ourselves, but one day a reptile known as a snake came and took over our home. We took many months to build the house and he came and occupied it was his own. What is his incentive, fellow? We couldn't fight him because he was large. While leaving, he pushed me aside. That is why I am limping, said the ant. What do you want? Please turn me into a snake and the most powerful reptile, then I will lead the happy life. That is not true, but I will fulfill your desire. The ant turned into a hissing snake and happily slithered away. A few more weeks passed, then again Sage heard someone running towards him while he was meditating. He opened his eyes, badly injured. The same mouse, cat, dog, lion, and ant, snake had came again. What is the matter? Said the sage. It is a long story, said the snake. I want to go down to catch a mouse. Mice are very delicious meal. But the go down owner tried to hit me even though I have harmed. So I hissed at him anger, but he hit me more and injured me. See the wounds on my body. That's why I ran away and came here. What do you want? Please turn me into a man who can beat even the most powerful reptile. Then I will lead a happy life. The sage smiled. That is not true, but I will fulfill your desire. The snake then turned into a young man and happily went away. Several months passed before the sage heard him again, the sound of someone running towards him again. The noise interrupted his meditation and he opened his eyes. What is the matter? Asked the sage. Swamiji, I am really tired. Every day I worked hard and stored grains for a rainy day, but a small mouse came and made holes in the bags of grains and started to take them away bit by bit. We didn't even notice it at first. The snakes began entering our storage area in search of mice and they terrify me, said the young man. What do you want? Turn me back into a mouse who can hide inside the hole without anyone noticing me. Then I will lead a happy life. That is not true, but I will fulfill your desire. Some more time passed. One day, once again, the sage heard someone running towards him as meditating. He stopped and opened his eyes. It was the same mouse into cat, into dog, into lion, into ant, into snake, into a man, and into a mouse. The sage smiled. You may have always wished to run back to me, child. Life is an experience. We all face challenges on this journey. If you are beautiful, there will be a person more beautiful than you. If you are brave, then there will be a person braver than you. If you are witty, then there will be a person who will be wittier than you. Accept what has been given to you. I knew you would be back since days you asked me to change into your cat, but I allowed you have this experience. I bless you. May you avoid your enemies and lead a good life. Blessed the sage. The mouse nodded as understanding dawned on him, and he left the ashram with happiness and twinkle in his eyes.
Story number 7, 40 Days of Quarantine. The next day, Ajja and Ajji were talking to each other over their morning tea. We cannot entertain the children like we did the last time they were here, said Ajja. Since we cannot go out at all, we can't take them to the local market or to wedding, to a picnic, or even Rahmat house. Though the atmosphere is not a happy one, we have to do our best to keep their spirits up. Let's try and distract the children as much as we can. Ajji nodded and added, the children must not forget their schoolwork either, so I want to create a routine and a daily timetable for them. Every morning, they must get up early and finish their chores. They can sit down to study after breakfast. I like the idea, agreed Ajja. Let me take the charge. We will tell them to study well until lunch. We can tell them stories in afternoon and they can play in the gardens in the evening. How about we teach the traditional games that we played at home when we were young?
Remember playing hopscotch, snake and ladders, Scrabble, and Ludo? And asked Ajji, excited. I think this will help the children to be happy and engaged. They can help in some work and the distribution of food too. Kamlu Ajji sighed. Thank God they are here. We have also been feeling better by having them around, otherwise, we would have been terribly bored and lonely. Soon, Ajja made a timetable and called out to the children. They came running and happily agreed to follow the schedule. Aditi asked, Ajja, has this kind of lockdown and isolation ever happened before? Have you experienced anything like this when you were young? That's an excellent question, Aditi. I was only a year old when the Second World War happened. I don't remember anything, of course. My mother told me that there were a right ration and food supply. Travel was also limited, but the population of our country was smaller too. In my adult life, we faced many power cuts during the war with China in 1962. That's when I learned to preserve electricity and not waste it. Ajji chuckled. That's why the Ajja switches off the light wherever he leave a room. It's a habit, it stayed with him since then. But I have never faced anything like this, children. My grandmother used to tell me about the plague, the cholera, and even the Spanish flu. The villages were evacuated, and people were forced to move elsewhere and find a place to stay. But we did not can conquer anything as a human race. For now, we must understand obey the rules as social distancing and quarantine. What is the meaning of quarantine? Anushka asked. It means period of isolation, originally 40 days, as per its origin from Latin and Italian, said Ajji. Do you know about a story about a quarantine? Ajji smiled. Tell us a story, Ajji, shouted the children, excited. Anmol was an orphan who worked in a restaurant to earn money. He would work all day and take leftover food back to his small hut, which stood near a river. He would sit by the river with his food and feed the fish in the water. Months passed. Anmol was not making enough money to improve his standard of life and wondered how he could earn some more money so that he could save a rainy day. One day, a stranger passing through the village ate lunch at the restaurant where Anmol worked. From his appearance, the stranger looked like a strange man. Anmol waited for him and the stranger began talking. Hi, I am Deepak. Anmol started to talk him. What brings you here? Asked Anmol. There is nothing special about this village and we rarely get any travelers, Deepak said. I am a successful merchant and need an assistant to help with my business. My terms and conditions are simple. I want young and active boy. For the first 40 days, I will not ask him to do anything. In fact, he will be fed well and taken care of. Then he will have to work only for 2 hours, which I will give him a gold coin in advance and 9 more after the work is done. I am in such search of a dependable person who would agree to my terms, so I will be here for a few days. Since the village was mostly filled with penitentiaries, the Anmol was one of the people who was eligible for the job. After Deepak left, Anmol thought to himself, if I get 10 gold coins, I can buy a property here. Perhaps this will allow me to live a better life. The next day, Anmol approached Deepak and said, Sir, I am willing to work for you. Deepak was happy and took Anmol back to the city, gave him a nice room and said that he would take care of him for 40 days, but that Anmol couldn't go out without him. Deepak was true of his words and Anmol got food for every day. He got to go to different places in city accompanied by Deepak and felt as he was on a wonderful holiday. Once 40 days were over, Deepak said, You can go home after completing 2 hours of work tomorrow. Here is 1 gold coin for you and the rest I will give you after the work is done. The next morning, Deepak and Anmol set out on a journey into deep forest. Deepak carried an enormous empty leather bag with him. Soon the duo approached a steep hill that ended in a cliff with a strong river flowing below. Deepak stopped walking. He turned to Anmol and said, I want to gather some fruits from the forest and I can take them to home. But I don't know how much weight that bag can hold. Will you climb to the bag? I will lift it up and you will inside so that I can estimate how much weight it can hold. Of course, said Anmol. The moment he was inside the bag, Deepak locked it. Only his head could be seen outside the bag.
Anmol didn't understand what was happening. Shocked and scared, he shrieked, "What are you doing?" Without saying a word, Deepak wrapped the bag in meat. A few minutes later, a huge eagle swooped down and carried the bag in the top of the hill. Once the eagle had reached to the top, it began unintentionally opening the knots of the bag in an effort to eat as much as meat as possible. Quickly, Anmol managed to come out of the one of the bag. Deepak was standing at the foot of the hill and Anmol could see him. Deepak shouted, "Don't be afraid, there is a lot of treasure around you. Please start throwing down as much as you can. But sir, this eagle will eat me after it finishes the meat." "Don't worry, there is another way to come down from the hill. Finish the task quickly," instructed Deepak. The eagle was still eating and pecking at the meat aggressively. Once he had thrown enough of the treasure, Anmol shouted, "Enough! I want to get out of the hill. Tell me how, you foolish boy! Can't you see the skeletons and the empty bags around you? Most of the men stayed back and got eaten by eagle. The only way to get out is jump off the cliff into the river. Good luck with your decision. It's time for me to go," sniggered Deepak as he quickly finished collecting the treasure and walked away. Anmol became deathly afraid. He understood why Deepak had put him in surely 40 days of quarantine. It was so that enough time to pass make them know, but he came looking for him in case he went missing. Now Anmol had two choices: die at the hand of eagle or jump on the cliff into the river below. Anmol thought it is better to jump and die at once rather than suffering for a long time by being pecked by that eagle. He jumped, hopeless in the face of the fate that awaited him. Little long he didn't know it was the same river that later passed through his village near his hut, and every fish was inhabited and used to feed every day by him. When he fell down and began to sink, one of the fishes recognized him and dragged a small wooden log to him. Anmol clung to it and thanked the fish as they guided him and followed the river, moving upstream till he reached the riverbank near his hut. He went home aghast at the trick of Deepak had played. After a few days, Anmol heard that Deepak was visiting a neighboring village looking for a new recruit. One of the Anmol friends wanted to jump on the offer, but he alerted him, "I have 1 gold coin. I will give it to you, but please don't go. It's dangerous." He managed to convince his friend and saved his life. He traveled to the neighboring village and approached Deepak. When Deepak noticed him, he stared at him in disbelief. "Sir, I have came to collect the rest of my payment," demanded Anmol. But how did you came down from the hill?" asked Deepak as he counted 9 gold coins and gave it to the Anmol. "I found a tunnel a little distance from where the eagle had dropped me and ran out. It brought me to the bottom of the hill. There is still a lot of jewelry and treasure left there, sir. You can go and pick whatever you want, since you are better judge when it comes to choosing the more expensive treasure. But you need to apply more and more meat to the bag to keep the eagle busy for a longer time." Deepak thought about it and decided to go to cliff himself. He asked Anmol, "Will you come with me? I'll pay you." "Sure, I will come with you, but I don't need any more payment. The 10 gold coins are enough. I'm happy as I am," said Anmol. The next morning, Deepak and Anmol walked to the forest. When they reached the hill, Deepak climbed into the bag and a huge eagle pecked him up and flew in the top of the hill. Once he was there, Deepak was surprised to see the glistening jewels glinting in the sun. He didn't know which one to pick and which one to leave. "I'll throw you a lot of jewels. Please collect them and keep them safe," he shouted to the Anmol, who was standing below. Deepak threw down the jewels until the eagle had finished the meat on the bag and began approaching him. "Anmol!" Deepak called out, "Tell me how to escape." "Sir, the only way to get out is there to jump off the cliff into the river. Good luck with your decision. It's time for me to go," said Anmol as he quickly finished collecting the jewels and walked away. Deepak jumped into the water. The fish, however, did not recognize him. With no one to help him, Deepak drowned. Story 8. What's luck got to do with it? Just as the grandparent had planned, Ajja began teaching the children every day. He was the headmaster of his 5-student school. His methodology was different from the teachers in the children's school. Ajja always introduced topics and guided them to a story. Raghu asked, "Ajja, why do you teach everything through a story?" A long time ago, stories were used to teach various subjects and life skills. The thought was that children will find easier to understand if the concepts are explained through interesting stories of anecdotes. People say that there once lived a king whose sons refused to listen to their teacher. A courtier suggested, "Sir, can you send your children to the forest to live with a teacher I know? Then they will be forced to pay attention and get an education." The king liked the idea and sent his sons to the teacher who lived in the forest. There, the teacher taught the boys everything in life using animals and analogies, always in the form of stories. That is the origin of Panchatantra. Eventually, king's son became responsible and mature, and the king was filled with gratitude toward the teacher. "I know the Panchatantra," piped in Anushka. The children laughed. Ajja nodded and continued. "That is why traditionally in India, stories were often to teach lessons. It could be moral, mathematical concept, or about administration. The Panchatantra was made for teaching children. The Indian mathematician Bhaskara's text called Lilavati elaborated on the subject by telling stories and included even the Pythagoras theorem. In the West, lessons were taken strictly as lessons only, and they would often tell a story during bedtime. In time, teaching with data statistics became the tools of formal teaching. Today, stories are meant for entertainment, but I belong to the old school of thought. In my younger days, I used to be a school teacher. Even though today, when you meet my students, ask them what they remember about me, most will say the stories that taught us lessons. "Ajja, are your students successful? Did listening the story help them?" asked Meenu. Ajja chuckled. "Some have, but to achieve success, you need to hard work and determination. And dab of a luck. Luck doesn't knock on your door all the time, but when luck doesn't knock your door at all time, you must be ready for it." And now that reminds me of Ravi. Who is Ravi? He is a man who received gold due to luck, but also realized that it was not way to live, replied Ajja. "Tell us more, Ajja." Anushka begged. "I will once you finish all your work with focus, without keeping anything pending for tomorrow." The incentive brought back children to attentions to their studies, and they completed their schoolworks with speed and accuracy. After they had finished, Ajja began the story. Ravi was a simple man and a self-sufficient farmer. Farming, however, depends a lot on rain and doesn't always fetch enough money. His wife, Alka, who was unhappy about the fact, she would often compare herself to the others and say, "Oh, my husband doesn't earn much and I'm so unlucky." One day, Alka went to the market to buy vegetables. At a vendor's cart, she saw a lady approaching vendor, her assistant in a tow. Alka stared at the woman and jewelry and her fine silk sari. The vegetable vendor didn't care even to speak Alka. He attended the rich lady first. After she left, Alka asked the vendor, "Who is she?" "Don't you know? She's wife of royal astrologer who predicts the future and finds the missing thing in the king's court," said the vendor. Alka came home fuming. She turned to her husband and frustrated. "Look at my life. Even the vegetable vendor doesn't respect me. Even though I am a regular customer, I think you should become an astrologer." "How can I? I don't know anything about astrology," said Ravi. "Oh, there's nothing to do it. Roll the dice and say whatever comes into your mind," said Alka, and kept insisting that he try it. After a few days, a helpless Ravi agreed. Dressed as an astrologer, he carried a dice and sat near the crossroads in the market. Nobody looked at his direction and approached him. After a few hours, a lady came and said, "Sir, my husband gave me a precious ring, but I have forgotten where I have kept it. If I don't find, I will be in trouble. Please help me locate the ring." Ravi started to sweat. He did not know what to do or what to say. He cast the dice and a number came in his lap. Suddenly he thought of dice looked like a matchbox. He said to himself, "It looks like a matchbox." As soon as the lady heard him mutter those words, she turned around and ran home. After an hour, she came back and gave him a gold coin. "What a prediction you have made," she said. "I placed the ring in a matchbox and completely forgot about it. I went home and found it. Thank you very much." Ravi took the coin and went home. Alka was ecstatic. "I told you so, didn't I? You wouldn't have earned even a gold coin even if you have farmed our land for a full year." "It was simply a matter of chance," said Ravi. I said something absent-mindedly while looking at the dice, but she mistook the words of prediction and found what she was looking for. Alka, I'd rather work in the fields where I know what I'm doing. I don't want to go and sit in the market tomorrow. Alka, however, was stubborn. She didn't listen to her husband and forced him to agree to go to the market again. Meanwhile, that very night, 40 boxes of jewels were stolen from the palace. The king was furious. He called the royal astrologer and ordered him, "Find out who has taken the treasure and where it is. I want an immediate answer." The royal astrologer couldn't come up with any details and informed the minister about his inability to find who was the robber. When the king informed about this, a courtier stood up and said, "Sir, my wife met an astrologer near the market crossroad. She praised him greatly. It seems very good." The king summoned Ravi to his court immediately. "Yesterday, 40 boxes of jewels got stolen from the treasury. Tell me who has stolen them and when I will get my treasure back. If you don't provide the right information, I'll throw you in the jail indefinitely." The king commanded Ravi. Ravi began sweating with a nervous and cursed Alka quietly. He had never imagined that he'd be caught in such dangerous scenario. He cast the dice and pretended to calculate something in his mind. The king demanded, "Tell me how and where are the 40 boxes?" Ravi heard 40 and mumbled, "40 people? What? Your boxes were taken by 40 people," said Ravi, committing to what he had said earlier. The royal astrologer couldn't even figure out that much, which direction these three headed. "I need 40 days, said Ravi, knowing that saying anything could land him in the jail. "I don't have much time. I require 40 days, sir," said Ravi. "That's what it's being to said me. I can't help it." "Fine, come back to me with the 40 boxes or you will find yourself in the jail for life." Ravi went back home, scared to death. He told Alka what had happened. Alka felt terribly sorry. "Oh my God, my greed and ego are cause of all troubles. If you go to jail, it will be my fault," she cried. She wept and sobbed and tried to think of a solution, but she couldn't see out of a way. Ravi was in a somber mood. He took his favorite treat from the storeroom, dates. He counted 40 and put them in a box. "Alka," he said in sadness in his heart, "if I have to go to jail for 40 days, I want to enjoy a date each day before that happens. After 40 days, I will go back to the king's court and face the consequences." The truth was, in fact, there were 40 thieves who each took one box of jewels from the king's treasury. The news of new astrologer reached them through their spy in the king's court. The leader of the thieves said, "Don't worry, my man. I don't think this Ravi can trace us, but to be safe, let's hold on to the treasure for 40 days. Moving it around at this time increases the risk of getting caught." The men, however, were worried. "Sir, I will go and investigate Ravi's plan today," one of the thieves announced. The leader gave him permission to do so. The man climbed up the terrace of the Ravi's house. Before he could peep inside, he heard a voice. "You have 40 days, dear husband. Wait until then." Ravi replied, "What did you say, Alka?" Ravi ate a date and sighed. He said, "One is finished, 39 are left." Without waiting to hear more, the thief ran away. He came and reported back to the leader. "Sir, I climbed the terrace on the astrologer's house and he said, 'One is finished, 39 are left.' He knew I was there, so I ran away." The leader was curious. "Oh," he said, "okay, 2 of you must go to his house tomorrow." Meanwhile, Alka was miserable at the situation of her husband was in. He had either the knowledge of astrology nor any power. She felt sorry that she had pushed her husband to pretend to be an astrologer and apologized to him several times. "Perhaps I should go and tell the truth to the king," she suggested. "Even if you do, no one will believe you. People really think that I am an established astrologer, Alka. Life would have been so much better and happier if we had kept a low profile and led a free life as farmers." Alka sobbed bitterly. The 2 men climbed on the terrace of Ravi's house. Before they could peep inside, they heard a man's voice and said, "Aha, 2 are finished, 38 are left." Ravi had eaten the second date. Without waiting to hear more, the thieves ran away. They came and reported to the leader. "Sir, we climbed to the terrace of the astrologer's house and he said, 2 are finished, 38 are left. He knew we were there, so we ran away."
The leader was curious. He said, "Okay, 3 of you must go to his house tomorrow." This continued until the 40th day, when the leader also went to the Ravi's house. All the men went to the Ravi's house. Before they could peep inside, they heard a man's voice say, "Aha, what a date! All 40 are finished, Alka. And now there is no escape." "What did you say?" "Done, they are finished. I will go to the king's court and right now and report back," he said. Seconds later, there was a knock at the door. "I know why you had come," said Ravi, thinking that king's guard had arrived to escort him to the king or jail. When he opened the door, the leader and the thief fell down at their feet and said, "Please save us. We are thieves, not murderers. If the king learned us that we are responsible for the robbery, he will hang us." "Do you all have the treasure?" asked Ravi, trying to hide his astonishment. Yes, sir. We have the 40 boxes. Once we heard about you and the waiting period of 40 boxes, we decided to wait and see." "In that case, keep all the boxes under the big banyan tree on the outskirts of my village and go back into the hiding. I will take care of the rest." The next day, Ravi sent a word to the king. The note read, "Sir, I have found the information about the treasure, but due to the limitations of my power, I can only give you a bit of information. Either the location of the treasure or the location of thief. What would you like to choose?" Even though he had sent a note, Ravi was terrified. To the logic dictated to the king that it would be inclined to choose the location of treasure, Ravi wondered what he would do if the king decided to choose the location of thief instead. He spent a day in suspense. A later day, the king sent his reply. "I want the treasure," said the note. Ravi thanked his stars and sent back the another note. "I have located the treasures and used my power to transport the boxes under the ground of the big banyan tree outskirts of my tree." The king sent his soldiers. After a little digging, they found the 40 boxes of treasures. Nothing was missing. The king was pleased and invited Ravi to his court. There, the king said, "I want to offer to the position of the royal astrologer. You can start from today." Ravi knew that he must not fall in the trap again. He said, "No, sir. I have spent all my energy and days tracing these 40 boxes of treasure. My power has diminished to a great extent and I will not be able to predict anything in the future. I am not fit to be the royal astrologer now." The king nodded. He felt very sorry for Ravi and said, "I will never meet someone like you ever again, Ravi. So I would like to present you with one of the box of the treasure as a gift." Ravi thanked him and left the court as quickly as possible. Alka and Ravi lived a very content and peaceful life for the rest of their days. "Aha! What a story!" exclaimed Kamlu Ajji, who had joined them quietly and was sitting nearby sorting oranges. "You tell a nice tale, brother." Ajja grinned. "Well, you must also tell a story." "Oh no, not now. I am busy trying to count the number of oranges needed for a glass of orange juice." "How many children are there?" "5, right?" she mumbled to herself. "Please, Kamlu," said Ajja. "Let the children hear another story." "Okay, but lunch would be delayed by 15 minutes. "We don't mind, Ajji," said Anushka, who was the youngest and always ready for a story. "Fine, but I must remind you to follow the rules of the during this time." "What are the rules, children?" "Wash hands frequently," said Raghu. "In case of a runny nose or a cough, or if we are feeling feverish, we must report to the one of the grandparents," said Meenu. "Keeping a minimum distance of 5 feet all the times as much as possible." "We are not allowed to go beyond the wall of the compound," said Aditi. "We should not touch our eyes, mouth and nose unnecessarily," said Anushka. "Excellent," said Kamlu Ajji, and then started telling them a story. Raghava was a simple boy who lived alone. He didn't have a family or anyone to advise him. He was often fooled by people smarter than him. People called him for work but didn't pay him properly at the end of it, or paid him less than the agreed amount. Poor Raghav kept quiet because he didn't know how to negotiate with them or even confront them. Because of his innocent nature, he came to be known as Bhola Raghav. He became tired of his endless poverty. No matter what he did, he always ended with a trick or cheated. One day, a sage consoled him by saying, "When the luck is at one side, a simple action can change one's destiny. Wait, my young friend, your time will come." A few days later, Raghav was sitting under the tree when he heard two people talking loudly.
One of them said, "You never know, an act of God can change anyone's life, but it is important to be God from happy with you." Tired of poverty, Raghav interrupted their conversation. "But how will I know that God is happy with me until I meet him?" The duo looked at Raghav, and one of them said, "If you pray with love and sincerity, God is sure to see you and bless you." Raghav had only one companion, his loyal horse. The two were inseparable. So Raghav rode his horse through the forest and sat down on a rock. He prayed sincerely, "I am honest and I try to work hard. I need your help. Please come and bless me, my God." Within hours, he heard a voice in his ear, "Get up, child. Go and sleep. When morning comes, your eyes closed, extend your hand and it touch something with around you. When you wake up, it will change your life." Raghav knew the voice was special and went back home in his horse. He had a few coins with him and kept him next to him when he slept that night. He thought if he touched them in the morning, they may multiply and change his life. In the early morning, a cat entered the Raghav's house and the horse suddenly became restless. Raghav heard the horse neighing and woke up, and his eyes closed, reached the horse and touched his bell and opened his eyes fully. Raghav shook his head when he realized what he had done. The coins were right next to his bed and untouched. He laughed at himself and thought, "My love for the horse has probably cost me a better life. How can this bell change my life?" Pushing the thoughts aside, Raghav took the horse and decided to go to the city, which was some distance away. It was noon. Before long, he felt hot and decided to take a break under a shady banyan tree. There he saw a young mother and her baby. The baby was crying uncontrollably and nobody around could help soothe the baby. A few minutes later, the mother gave up and began crying too. Raghav decided to leave. As soon as the horse took few steps, the bell began to ring and the baby stopped crying. So Raghav rang the bell for a while until the baby was completely calm. The mother, relieved, and said, "At last, my child is happy now because of the sound of the bell. Oh, young man, will you give this old bell to me? In return, I will give you 5 juicy oranges. Unfortunately, that is what I can give you." Compassionate Raghav exchanged the bell for the oranges. When he reached the next village, he passed a big house. A big crowd was standing outside the girl. "What is the matter?" he asked the girl standing in the front of the house. "Our mother is very sick. The doctor says that she must have a very juicy fruit immediately so that she can survive. We don't have any such fruit nearby and we need some right now," said the beautiful young girl, who looked like she was about to cry in any moment. Raghav felt sorry for her and said, by giving the 5 oranges, "Here I have some, take these, maybe it can be of some use for your mother," he said gently. The girl ran inside and he decided to wait for a few minutes to see how mother was doing. After some time, the girl came out of the house looking for him. She said, "Mother is feeling better. You have saved her life. She has sent this gift for you." The girl gave him a fine silk scarf and thanked him and ran back to his house. Raghav went further towards the city. After some time, he took a break and he had lunch with a group of travelers who offered to share his food with them. One of them said, "We really like your scarf, young man. The quality of it is wonderful. I have a fine dagger. I can give you that in exchange of the scarf. Tell me, will you make this exchange?" Raghav agreed to take the dagger in the exchange for the scarf. By that time, he reached the main market of the city. It was evening. There was a big commotion. Someone told him that the king was coming and everyone was waiting for him. When the king arrived, everyone stood still, almost like a doll. Raghav was fascinated by the king's grandeur. The king's eyes fell on Raghav's and the dagger he had kept tied around his midriff. The king asked, "Young lad, your dagger has caught my fancy. You are not a warrior, but I am. This dagger is exactly what I want. Will you give it to me?" "Please take it, sir," Raghav immediately said. In return, the king gave him a lot of money. Raghav used this coin to find a room to rest in an inn and a stable for his horse. At the dinner, he heard some merchants say to a friend, "I desperately need some money for the funds. The material I had ordered is coming early tomorrow and I need to pay for the delivery. If someone loans me my money just for a day, I can pay them double back tomorrow once I sell all the wares." But it is night already. Who can help me at such short notice? Raghav turned around and said to the merchant, I can help. I can give you the money you need. You can pay me back the same amount tomorrow. The merchant was surprised that a young lad was going to help him without any conditions. So the merchant said, Thank you for your generous offer. Whatever I will get, I will give you half of it. Please wait at the inn until I am back tomorrow. The next morning, Raghav waited for the merchant, who came back and said to him, Oh lad, you have brought me luck. The money you gave me has doubled like I thought it would, but to my surprise, it has doubled in gold coins because the princess herself has bought all my materials. The merchant handed over a big bag of gold coins to Raghav and invited him to his partner. The merchant considered Raghav to be his lucky charm. Raghav agreed, and soon enough he became a very rich man. He made a nice stable for his horse and took good care of him. Many marriage proposals started to pouring in. One day Raghav saw a girl at the market. She was the same girl whose mother has given him a silk scarf. He approached her and asked, How is your mother? Oh, it is so nice to meet you here. I cannot forget what you have did for my family. We tried to trace you, but we failed, she said. Raghav smiled and gave her his address. That evening he received another marriage proposal, and to his pleasant surprise, it was from the family of girl he had met in the market. When night fell, Raghav took his horse for a ride and said to him, When luck is on one side, a simple bell can change one's destiny. Thank you for being my loyal companion on this journey, my horse. The next day, Raghav agreed the proposal, and then two were wed and lived a happy life together. That is why I pray to the temple before my exam results. I believe that God always blesses us with the luck, so I request him to send me some whenever I need it, said Raghu. Me too, said Krishna. Kamlu Ajji laughed and left to make the lunch. Story number 10, A Word of Honor. 2 days later, there was a call from a town officer in morning. When Ajja picked up the phone, the officer requested him to put him on the speaker so that he could speak both to Ajja and Ajji. Then he said, A few construction workers have landed here. Since there were no buses, trains or flights, these group's workers began making their way home from Hubli. On the way, these migrant workers realized that they could not reach their home in the north, but they have managed to reach our town in their way. As we are in quarantine, I have arranged them to stay in Hanuman temple in the outskirts. There are few taps there, along with some public toilets. I told them to stay put until the lockdown is over and they can reach the home safely. They have agreed to do so, but we need to send them food every day. Once they are settled, perhaps in 3-4 days, we can give them gas and dry rations so that they can start cooking with themselves. But right now they are not in position to make food by themselves. How many people are there? Asked Ajja. Around 25 men. Is there any way that you can send something to eat from your house for today's lunch? Immediately Ajja said, Of course, we will send chapatis for them. Ajji nodded in agreement. That's an excellent idea, said the town officer. I am sure that they will like chapatis. Meanwhile, I will ask someone else for cooked vegetables. Ajji, who was always ready to help, jumped in the conversation and said, Don't worry, we will cook them some vegetables too. Let us know what they should cook each a day. The town officer sounded relieved and happily. Thank you for your donation. May your tribe increase. I will keep you updated. Ajji went to the storeroom and exclaimed, Oh no, we don't have enough wheat flour to feed the 25 people. Kamlu Ajji agreed. I think this will make only 50 chapatis. We have wheat at home, but it needs to ground into flour. The grinding machine shop will open only for an hour in the evening due to the lockdown. And remember, we have to feed the children also. If we add Damu and us, we will still need around 30 more chapatis. What should we do? There's no question about it. I have given my word of honor. I must send the workers 100 chapatis. Ajji glanced at the clock. It was 10 a.m. The grocery store will open for 3 hours between 6 and 9 p.m. I can call the town officer and tell him that we will give them chapatis tomorrow. We can just not get grocery today, suggested Ajja. Perhaps we can eat rice today and somehow make 100 chapatis to send the men. But how? The children were surprised to see Ajji was very anxious and worried. Usually, she was calm and happy all the time. But she had become tense when she found that all flour they had was insufficient. Suddenly, Ajji thought of checking with Damu, who was drinking a cup of tea and listening to the conversation. Do you have wheat at flour your home, Damu? Yes, Amma, I can get it. It should be enough. Okay then, I'll get you the flour in the evening and replace it. Damu ran to the floor from the house to the next door. Relieved, Ajji went to the kitchen and started preparing the dough. Kamlu Ajji went to the garden to pluck fresh leafy vegetables. They were easy to grow unlike the other vegetable. Ajji shouted in the kitchen, Raghu, Meenu, go and bring me drumsticks from the tree. Drumsticks are nutritious and easy to make if one has lesser time at hand. Raghu and Meenu ran to the garden to her bidding. After a few minutes, Anushka, Aditi and Krishna went to the kitchen. Anushka asked, Ajji, why are you so stressed? When you found that we don't have enough flour, you could have given the chapatis tomorrow, right? No, child, I had given my word of honor. Perhaps I should have checked how much flour we had and then committed to providing so many chapatis to the town officer. Word of honor? Why it is so important, Ajji? Once you say that you will do something, you must complete it. Sometimes it is easy to come up with a genuine reason not to do what you have committed to do. But that is not right. A person is known to be dependable only if he or she does what they have said without any excuses or reason. Like a military rule, said Krishna. That is why soldiers are dependable people, replied Ajji. Ajja entered the kitchen. We live safely in democratic India because they are there for us, reliable guarding for our border, said Ajja. Ajji smiled. What happened, Ajji? Talking to you girls, this reminds me a story. Please tell us a story, Ajji, insisted Aditi. Sure, I will tell you while making the chapatis. Story. King Narendra was the ruler of small kingdom. He was also well known because of his king, who was always true of his word of honor. One year, the kingdom faced a very heavy drought. The king announced, There will be no celebration or luxurious food in the court or the palace. I will eat whatever my subjects will eat till the drought had ended. The king opened his kitchen to everyone, something king had never done before. This endeared him to the subjects. True to his word, this continued until the rain arrived and the drought ended. A few months later, king began to build a palace on an enormous piece of land. Their very old worn-out hut stood next to this land. The person who lived in the hut approached the king and said, Sir, someone is building a really big house next to my land. People are asking me to vacate my home and give more space to the garden they want to build there. But I don't want to leave. The small piece of the land and hut belonged to my forefather and I want to keep it because it makes me feel less lonely and reminds me of them. Please, sir, I'm not doing anything wrong. Will you support me? If your word says true, I will. The king sent his men to find out more about the matter and came to know that poor man was telling the truth. It was the land next to the new palace. Meanwhile, the poor man also found that the big house being constructed was none other than the king's palace. Let it stay, said the king to his architect. I have given the man my word. When people look at the palace, they will look outstanding architecture. When they see the hut, they will also come to know that I am a man of my word. In the same kingdom, there lived a zamindar who owned a lot of property. In the old days, people believed that only boys should inherit the properties of their parents in the hope that they will bring a great name to the family. The zamindar belonged to the old school of thought. And when his wife was expecting a baby, she went to live in her parents' house for a few months. As was the custom in those days, as she was leaving, the zamindar told her sternly, We must have a son. If you don't give birth to the son, don't come back to live with me. His wife was terrified, but for the sake of baby, she tried to be positive and happy. Time passed by quickly, and one morning she delivered a healthy baby girl. She was happy to have a girl, but she was scared of what her husband would do if she found that she had given birth to a girl. So she sent a word to him, I have given a birth to the baby boy. Perhaps I can convince him to see the things from my point of view once he gets to know our daughter better, she thought. The ecstatic father sent a message back to her. I am pleased. I want to name the boy Veervar, the brave one. Thus the baby girl was named Veervar. Her mother kept her like the secret too. Virvar grew up as a boy. She knew that she would have to keep it a secret as she was actually a girl or face her father's wrath. She wore a boyish and loose cloth and got all necessary education fit for a boy in those days. She was outstanding in archery and horse riding, and everyone around her, except her mother, thought she was actually a boy. 2 decades passed when Virvar was going to another town for work. She had to pass through a forest. There, she saw a man being attacked by a lion. Though the man was fighting back, she knew she needed help. So she leapt to action. She rode her horse towards the man, picked him up, and quickly rode away from the lion. When she stopped, she realized that the man was wounded badly. He told her that he was King Narendra. He had gone to forest with her soldiers and lost his way when he came to the lion. Quickly, Virvar brought him back to his palace, handed him over to the royal guards, and galloped away. When the king was in better health, he invited Virvar to come in his capital as his personal guest. He wanted to thank her for saving his life. Reluctantly, Virvar agreed since she could not disobey the king's wish. When she stayed at the palace, the king realized Virvar was good at everything she did. The king had a sister called Chandrika, who was a stunning and marriageable age. He thought, Virvar is a brave and courageous. He may not be a prince, but he is a good man. I would like my sister to marry him. The king called Virvar's parent to discuss the idea. Mother was aghast, but she couldn't reveal the truth to the king. So she said, Sir, your sister is a princess and we are ordinary. Besides, we must ask Virvar's opinion too. He may not want to get married now. Her dominant husband, however, stopped her and said, He said, This is a rare opportunity, sir, where luck has came to her and on. Our son is handsome and a good warrior. Unfortunately for him, he was born in my family. Otherwise, he is too fit to be a royal. I have no objections at all. This marriage has my blessing. Thus, the wedding was fixed. When Virvar heard the news, she was dumbstruck. But she knew that she didn't have the choice. May I spend some more time with your sister to understand her thought and expectation? She asked the king. Princess Chandrika had seen Virvar a few times in the court. As a young man, she was enchanted by the warrior. When her brother had suggested the union with Virvar, she agreed happily. The king replied, I know my sister, she agrees with me the decision. However, you can spend some more time together in the royal garden if she is willing. Chandrika found Virvar's request to be an unusual one, but she was happy to spend some more time with him and agreed to the request. Virvar met Chandrika at the royal gardens and said, A princess like you is probably not good for me for the commoner such me. I cannot bestow upon you to the comforts of the royal family in my house, and I do not want to stay here in the royal court forever. I think the wise decision should be refused to marry me. Chandrika smiled. Whenever and wherever you will stay with me, it will be like a palace and loving home in my heart. I don't expect any special treatment in your home. Virvar realized that there was no way it could change the Chandrika's mind. She sat down on a bench nearby. Chandrika said, You look concerned. Tell me, what is in your mind? I had a dream yesterday, said Virvar. Was it so interesting that it was occupying your mind while you are here with me? She teased him as she sat down too. It was a powerful dream. I dreamt that there was a good-looking girl who always dressed like a boy because of her father's pressure to present a boy to the world. Everyone thought that she was a boy from the day she was born. One day, she was engaged to king's daughter. Soon, the king's daughter learned that boy was in fact a girl. Put her to death, she ordered her guard. Just then I woke up. Then the dream was very real, and it seems that it is happening to someone somewhere in the world, but it left me disturbed. What do you think, princess? Did she do the right thing? Chandrika paused for a moment and then said, The girl was compelled to the boy by her parents. It was not her own free will, so she should not be given the penalty of that. They should release her and allow her to lead a normal life because she might have been having her own dreams of marriage and children. Virvar stood up and said, I am that girl. Chandrika was furious. How dare you? You could have told me this much earlier and revealed who are you. I will try my brother. He is sure to kill for you for your deceit. Frustrated, she began crying. Virvar said gently, Princess Chandrika, you said that the girl should be released because she had her own pressure and her dreams. The moment it became personal, you changed your outlook. I haven't cheated you or any purpose. Neither
your brother or you. Though my mother and I resisted the proposal, nobody listened to us. My father and the rest of the world are in the dark about my gender. That is why I wanted to speak to you alone. If you still think that I deserve penalty of death, I will accept the punishment. Chandrika calmed down and felt sorry for Veervar. Then she said, perhaps you are right. I can accept this, but my brother learns of this, he is sure to execute you. Luckily for you, I know how to handle from my brother. Come for me tomorrow, but let me lead the discussion. The next day, the two women met the king, and Narendra was happy to see them together. Tell me, what did you speak about the yesterday? He asked. Chandrika replied, brother, we spoke about the Veervar's friend, a good-looking girl who was always dressed like a boy because of her father's pressure, present a boy to the world. Everyone thought that she was a boy from the day she was born. One day, she was engaged to the king's daughter. Soon the girl's king learned that the boy was in fact the girl. Put her to death, she ordered her guards. It was all this very disturbing. What do you think, brother? Did she do the right thing? The king thought for some time and said, it is the father and not the girl who must be punished. The girl shouldn't even be eligible for punishment. Veervar stopped and forward. Before we discuss this further, it reminds me of something else. I wanted to speak about you, sir. I want assurance from you. I saved your life, and I hope that you will protect my father and ensure no harm will come to him. Of course, no harm will befall him, Veervar. He is soon going to be my brother-in-law's father. Once he had the king's word, Veervar revealed the truth. Sir, I am that girl. The king was livid. How dare you? Who do you think you are? Sir, the truth is that I didn't cheat you. I did not ask you for your sister's hand in marriage, nor was I keen on the wedding. You were the one who insisted the match. Please do not hurt my father, though I know that he has done wrong in his ignorance. A daughter can do whatever a son can. I am the best example of this. Your judgment told that it is not the girl's fault, which means that is not my fault either. You are well-respected king because you keep your word. Sir, I hope you will understand my perspective. The rest I leave up to you. The king realized he must keep his word and also knew the deep down in his heart that it was not Veervar's fault. His anger melted away and he said, I see your point. I'm sorry for the troubles you have been through presenting yourself as a man in the world all these years. For a long time, I had one sister, Chandrika. Today, I adopt you as my sister too and will call you Virangana. May both of you marry the husbands of your choice. I bless you both. By the time the story was done, the chapatis were too. Damu helped Ajji pack the chapatis as Ajja called the town officer. Within the minutes, a man was at the gate waiting to collect the chapatis. He thanked Ajja and Ajji from the gate and Damu ran hand to hand over the food. I feel so happy that we could help the laborers, said Krishna. Ajja patted on her head and pulled her rosy cheeks. Story number 11th, The Language of Dogs. It was a quiet and hot night. The children were sitting in the veranda under the fan talking to each other. A short distance away, Ajja and Kamlu Ajji were sitting on the stairs in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts. They could hear the street dogs barking near the main gate of the house. Why do the dogs bark at the night? Asked Kamlu Ajji. It's the same story in Bangalore too. They start barking in the middle of the night and go on for a really long time. They also have tired problems, said Ajja. Usually the dogs are fed leftover food from the restaurants, but these days no hotels are open during the lockdown and many are going hungry. Ajja turned and called out to Ajji, who was still inside the house. Do you have any food for the dogs? He yelled. A few chapatis and some rice, she yelled back. Bring them here. Ajji bought the food and biscuits and went with Ajja and Kamlu Ajji to the main gate. The children watched from a distance. They looked on as two dogs appeared. Ajji put biscuits, rice and chapatis in a bowl and kept water in another bowl just outside the gate. The two dogs looked at her and attacked the food greedily, gobbling down in minutes. Then they drank the water and wagged their tails to thank and ran away. Slowly, the trio walked back and sat on the steps of the veranda. Ajji said, I wish they could speak, and then I could make their favorite food. After all, Earth also belongs to them. Your perspective is so different, said Ajja. Humans can speak, and that's why we can do the things we want to and own the material like things, property, and land. Poor animals, we are occupying their land just because they cannot communicate like us. Even if they have any ownership of any piece of land before us, they can't tell us. You are right, said Kamlu Ajji. Now that humans are all indoors, lot of animals in India are coming out from the forest to cities nearest to them because it was their land and long time ago. Ajja added, this world would have been a different place if we understood the chirping of birds and the language of animals. Ajji smiled and said, I am thinking of Dheeraj now. Who's Dheeraj? Asked Ajja. Do you want to listen a story? Ajja and Kamlu Ajji nodded their heads like the children's, eager to listen to what Ajji had to say. Story. Amit and his wife Preeti were high-ranking officials in their kingdom. They were young, powerful and rich and lived in a mansion by a river. They frequently hosted official celebrations on their yacht or their beautiful large gardens, but made sure they were inviting only those people from the kingdom who were also rich or powerful and not whom they considered less fortunate. Ramu was a housekeeper who lived with them and served them for years. One day, he brought home a young boy of 6 years. The boy looked innocent and intelligent. Ramu asked Preeti, I met this boy in the village fair. He does not have anyone to take care of him. I would like to help him. Can he live with me? Preeti glanced at the boy and said, Sure, as long as he works for us and does not spoil the premises. And that is how Dheeraj began to living with Preeti and Amit's home. One day, Amit hosted a dinner for an important minister. The evening began toured with her on the river on the yacht. Then the yacht docked on the riverside and the music began playing as the celebration commenced in the beautiful gardens. There was a wide spread of delicacies being served. Dheeraj was assisting Ramu with his chores. The dinner was full in its swing when the barking of 2 dogs disturbed Amit and his guests. The dogs were right outside the main gate of the gardens. Amit gave instructions to Ramu to hush them and chase them away. But the dog refused to move. The non-stop barking upset the Amit and he said, I wish someone could understand what they are saying and that we could respond appropriately and ask them to leave. Dheeraj was nearby and overheard Amit. Timidly, he approached the master of the house and said, Sir, I can understand them. Some of the guests laughed while others passed sarcastic comments. Preeti asked, Tell me, boy, what are they saying? Madam, I will tell you if you promise me that you will not get upset when I share their words with you, said Dheeraj, looking worried. They must be talking about food, boy. Anyway, hurry up and tell me, said Preeti firmly. Madam, they are not talking about the food. Get to the point, boy. I'm losing the patience with you, snapped Amit. Nervously, Dheeraj continued, Sir, there is a male dog and a female dog at the gate. The male dog says, Look at life's irony. What do you mean? Said the female dog. This couple is used to being served by someone all the time. But a day will come when the master of this house will give an important person water to wash their hands and lady will voluntarily run and bring a towel for him to wipe his hand. Whom you are talking about? Who will the couple serve? The male dog grinned and said, This little boy. Both the dogs then had a hearty laugh, said Dheeraj, and felt silent. The silence spread through the guests and it ruined their mood. Are you mad? You are nothing but a servant boy, an orphan and a poor fellow. You don't have anything to call your own. There is no way we will ever serve you, retorted Preeti in anger. Amit was livid. This is all nonsense. I don't believe that you can understand the dog's language. It is just wishful thinking on your part, something you can dream of. Be quiet. Amit called Ramu immediately and instructed him. Take this boy away.
Dheeraj pleaded. Sir, I am not taking this up. I have only repeated what I heard. Amit refused to look at him. Quietly, Ramu escorted the boy downstairs, upset and sad. He said, My child, don't say such thing in front of the masters. They are powerful and can throw you out of the house. Then where will you stay and who will look after you? But uncle, I have shared the truth. There was nothing to hide. Do you really understand the language of dogs? Asked Ramu. I can understand their language, but I also know that I can use this skill only 3 times in my life. After the party, Amit and Preeti took the Ramu aside. Amit says, Dheeraj is no longer to live with us and work for us. Once he falls asleep, take the boy away and leave him where you found him. Ramu could not disobey Amit, but he was heartbroken when Dheeraj was sleeping. He put him down on a small makeshift board with some food and a note that read, Please look after this orphan boy. He has been abandoned through no fault of his own. When Dheeraj woke up and realized he had been set adrift on the water, he saw that the boat was going downstream. He was hungry and ate some food, but he didn't know what to do after that. By then, the stream had reached the sea and the boat was becoming wobbly. A big merchant ship was sailing nearby, and the captain of the ship spotted the boat through the binoculars. He noticed the boy and sent a rescue team to the boat. Dheeraj was rescued soon and brought back to the ship. The captain met the boy and read the note and his team had found. The boy's innocence captured captain's heart, and he decided to let the boy stay and help him. Days passed and the boy began learning skills such as navigation, business knowledge and trade. One day when the ship was docked and being ready to set sail again, the captain noticed that Dheeraj looking worried. What's the matter? He asked. Sir, I had the conversation between 2 dogs, he said and pointed to the 2 dogs sitting short distance away. I urge you to stop all travel today, especially if you are carrying valuable goods. Explain yourself. The 2 dogs are chatting about the big storm that is going to hit us in 24 hours. The birds had warned them that it will destroy everything in its path. Do you understand what they are saying? Asked the captain, surprised at this revelation. Yes, but I can do only 3 times in my life. I was kicked out once. The last time I shared my knowledge, I don't know what will you do, but please listen to me and delay the trip by a day. The captain laughed. I am seasoned captain. I know when there is a storm coming. Now it's not the time and I don't agree with you. Sir, I'm not lying. I request you to reconsider. What is the worst that can happen if you delay by a day? I will lose one whole working day and I am under a lot of pressure for speedy delivery of these expensive goods. I will have to pay my crew for an extra day too and it will affect my profits, said the captain. But isn't life more important? What is there if no storm today? Then you can punish me. But I guarantee that there will be a storm soon. Besides, have I ever asked you for anything in the time you have known me? Said Dheeraj. The captain thought about it and agreed to delay but the departure by a day. The neighboring ship, however, was loaded with goods and about to leave. The captain ran to him and ship to advise the other captain and convince him to delay his journey by a day too. But the captain there laughed at him. You are a well-traveled man. There is no sign of storm. I am definitely leaving. The captain came back dejected. He waited for a few hours, then suddenly, out of nowhere, he saw huge waves in the distance. They were so huge that they blocked the sun when they rose. Dark clouds gathered and it started pouring. From his binoculars, the captain saw the neighboring ship sinking, but there was nothing he could do to stop. Later, he thanked the boy professionally and realized that Dheeraj was gifted. Soon, Dheeraj became the apple of his eyes. Years passed and Dheeraj turned into a young man well versed in trade and navigation of ships. One day, the captain and the Dheeraj and the crew reached an island known for encouraging business and trade. Dheeraj and the captain went to visit the king, taking some gifts along with them. The king enjoyed Dheeraj's company since he was smart and expert in his field. Soon they were in deep discussion. While speaking, Dheeraj heard 2 dogs and barking nearby. The king remarked, They are quite dear to me, but I'm tired of their barking. They refuse to move. I have closed the window, but I can still hear them barking. Away out there. Usually they are well behaved. The captain looked at Dheeraj. Dheeraj smiled. He turned to the king and said, Sir, I can understand the language of your dogs. Can you open the window so I can hear them quickly? I have never met anyone who can understand what dogs say, but if you are right, I will make you minister in my court, said the king. Sir, I will do this for not for greedy, for elevated to become minister of the court. I was punished the first time and I used it. I was rewarded the next time. But I can use this skill once more and this will be the last time. The Dheeraj said there are 3 dogs down there, a father, a mother and a child. They have been arguing about whom the child belongs to, the father or the mother. The father says that child belongs to him, but the mother says child belongs to her. But the child wishes to let you, the king, decide. He says he will respect your decision, so they are trying to communicate with you. The king went to the window, looked at the dogs below. Ah, their child belonged to their clan, said the king. Yes, a child owes a lot to the parents, but he also has responsibility to his clan and society. With the king's word, the dogs stopped barking and bowed their head and walked away. The king was happy and rewarded Dheeraj. He said, I want you to become minister of the business. You are intelligent, balanced and mature. The captain agreed to free Dheeraj of his duties on the ship. He was proud that the boy was being recognized for his skills. Months passed and the king remained happy with the Dheeraj service. One day the king called him and said, Dheeraj, visit all provinces in our kingdom and see how the business is going. Based on your report, we will fix the rate of the taxes throughout the kingdom. Dheeraj began his journey. Word spread among the people. Dheeraj, the minister of business, is visiting the kingdom everywhere. He will assess the situation on the ground and evaluate the business. He'll then provide his inputs to the king and the tax rates. Dheeraj reached the province where Amit and Preeti lived. The vague memory came to his mind when he saw their mansion, the river and the yacht. Dheeraj's mind raised up at this discovery. He learned that Amit had gone up to the ladder even further and has become the top official. Dheeraj decided to focus on his work and not mention his time there. The next day, Amit hosted a big lunch with a lot of guests in Dheeraj's honor. After lunch, Dheeraj went to wash his hands in the sink. Suddenly, Amit came out with a jug of water since there was no tap in those days. Soon his wife Preeti also came running out with her towel. It was vital to please king's official and as be hospitable as they could so that they could gain future benefits. Dheeraj washed and wiped his hand and looked out from the balcony. He saw the servants' quarter and saw Ramu working below. He laughed, a little surprising everyone. Then he asked, Will you call that man here? Sir, he is only a servant. He can't give you any information about our business, said Preeti. But I must meet him, Dheeraj responded. The guests were stunned. They had assumed that Dheeraj would want to spend time getting to know the business people in the province, but he wanted to speak to a mere servant. Ramu was called. He had grown old and frail. When he entered the room, Dheeraj embraced him. Uncle, how are you? I never thought I would see you again. You are partially responsible for who I am today. No one understood what he was talking about. Ramu stared at Dheeraj. After a few seconds, he realized who he was. Tears filled in his eyes. With an arm around Ramu's shoulder, Dheeraj turned to the guests and said, 25 years ago, I was a poor orphan. Ramu uncle took me in and I worked in this house for a while. I heard 2 dogs talking during such one celebration. They said that a day would come when Amit ji would bring water and Preeti ji would bring a towel for me to wash my hands. Today this had come true. In their anger, they had told Ramu uncle to abandon me. Poor uncle was in no position to refuse their request, so he put me on the boat when I was asleep and sent me across the river with a kind note. My foster father, the captain of a ship, adopted me and looked me after well. It is his and uncle's compassionate and kindness that made me who I am today. Nobody said a word. Dheeraj took Ramu by the hand and walked out of the room. By the time Ajji finished the story, she saw all children sitting behind her, listening intently. They had been there for the whole time. Raghu grinned. Ajja and Kamlu Ajji, do you think you can hear the stories without us? The moment we heard the word story, we came running from the veranda to listen Ajji. Story number 12. April showers bring May flowers. The day was hot and humid. Damu looked at the sky and said, It will rain today. How do you know that? Asked Aditi. April always brings showers, he replied. For the children, Damu was an important link to outside world. He was the one who would go to the market, buy groceries and other essentials, and return and keep things out in the sun to sanitize them. Then he would go for a bath and join the family after he was clean and fresh again. "What's happening outside in the town?" asked Krishna.
Everything is closed. There are few people on the road and only a few shops open for groceries.
Medicines, vegetables, and of course, petrol bunks too. People get out of the house only to buy things they need urgently. "Do you get mangoes in the market?" queried Raghu. "Not yet. See the mango trees," said Damu, pointing to the tree inside the compound. "The mangoes are still raw." "Then when will ripe mangoes be available in market?" persisted Raghu. He loved mangoes. "Usually you get the best mangoes in the month of May, but when rain falls, things are not same. For instance, when rain fall in April, the mangoes fall in the yield and the yield is less. That is why mango growers don't like April showers, but people who grow jackfruit prepare because the quality of fruit get better with rain." Ajji joined the conversation and said, "April shower bring May flowers," she remarked. "Yes, Bangalore also had red flowers that bloom in the May," piped Anushka. "There are many flowers that bloom after April shower, especially those who are used to manufacture herbal medicines since the herbs grow better with the natural rain in April." "How do you know that, Ajji?" asked Meenu. "One of my friends is a doctor of Ayurveda. He told me. After April showers, he would go for the forest in the search of medical flowers and leaves and fruits." "What else did he say?" "Well, he told me a story. I also want to know about these herbs." "Wait a minute. I have just put the pressure cooker on the gas. Give me a few minutes and I will also join in," yelled Kamlu Ajji from kitchen. Soon, everyone had settled in to listen to the story that Ajji had heard from her Ayurvedic doctor. Mahesh was a popular doctor in his village and had immense knowledge about herbs and medicines. Within a few years, he became famous in village and surrounding areas. Unfortunately, he also became arrogant and frequently said, "I can cure any disease in the world. If it can't cured, then that disease is incurable." One day, a man named Prashant came to him an unusual fever. No matter what medicines Mahesh gave him, they didn't help. Prashant remained ill. After 2 months, Mahesh gave up and said, "Look, my man, this disease cannot be cured. Pray to God to save you." Prashant went home desperate and dejected. Mahesh called his wife and said, "Take care of your husband. I have tried my best and failed. I don't think he will survive more than a few weeks." Month passed. One day, Mahesh went to the market for grocery and ran into Prashant. He looked hale and hearty and was busy managing shop in the market. Mahesh was surprised how on earth the patient was still alive. He approached Prashant and said, "I'm glad to see you. How are you?" "As you can see, I have completely recovered and I'm so thankful." "Which doctor treated you after me?" asked Mahesh. "Sometimes a doctor appears in the form of God. Even if the doctor only gives water, it can be as good as the best medicine for the patient," said Prashant. Mahesh was annoyed. "Well, then tell me the name of the god that cured you." "A lady called Hema lives across the river. She treats her patient with her own medicine, and I went to her with a last resort. She gave me 5 tablets and I recovered fully by the time I had finished the last dose." Mahesh forgot all about his grocery shopping and went home by thinking about Hema. That night he couldn't sleep a wink. She couldn't be better than him, could she? The next morning he crossed the river and asked a few people for the direction to Hema's house. Many people seemed to have heard of her and pointed to him in the right direction. When he reached, he saw had a tiny 2-room house. Outside there was a small makeshift hut that turned into a clinic. That's where Hema treated her patient. Mahesh refused to wait in line. He went to Hema and introduced himself. "I am Mahesh, a famous doctor from across the river. I met your patient, Prashant, yesterday. I had tried to cure him a few months ago, but all my medicines failed. He must have come to you after that. Now he looks strong and healthy. What did you give him?" "Please sit, doctor," he said. Hema said and invited him inside. "No, I don't have much time. Please tell me quickly and briefly, in one sentence. I will be able to understand. I have a feeling that it may be just a luck. There are many times when disease can cure themselves and doctor gets credit for cure anyway. Hema laughed. Haha, maybe, she said. Tell me what you have gave him, insisted Mahesh. I'll keep it brief for you then. April showers may bring May flowers, she replied as she called in her next patient, dismissing Mahesh. Mahesh left. May flowers, he thought. It must be easy to understand. He went to market and bought flowers that bloom in May, but there seemed to be no medicinal effect in helping fever or any type of typical symptom. He became obsessed with Hema's word. Finally, he thought about taking someone's help and approached a literature expert. April shower brings May flower, he said to the expert. What a lovely phrase, said the expert. I don't get anything else out of it, my friend. Then Mahesh went to a florist who said, May flowers are very beautiful indeed. All I can tell you is that I'll sell a lot of these flowers. That also didn't help Mahesh. Next, he went to an artist friend. The artist said it is soothing and inspirational to both paint April showers and May flowers. That turned to be an dead end too. Frustrated, Mahesh decided to return home. As he made his way back to home, he passed two farmers talking about their crop. One of them remarked, the best crop is right after the monsoon. The rain brings the best quality of food. Even if there is continuous irrigation or source of water nearby, there is nothing like monsoon showers. The quality of the crop is outstanding with the natural rain. It is a gift from the gods above and I am always grateful. Suddenly, Mahesh realized what Hema meant. The medicinal plant that flower after April showers have highly medicinal values and only those flowers are recommended for use while preparing medicines. He went across the river right away and to Hema's house and explained what he had discovered. He asked, have I understood your words correctly? She smiled. Yes, use only those flowers that bloom after rain in April. After May, the medicinal value reduces in the flower but gets transferred and goes deep into the roots. So don't use flowers after that. Instead, you can use a different part of the plant or that tree. This way, you are sure to have herbs and medicines throughout the year. Why didn't you tell me this all first time when I came to your house? You said you had time only for one sentence, Hema chuckled. Mahesh realized the error of his ways. I may be a good doctor, but there are also as good as me or even better than me. Knowledge is never limited. It can come from anywhere and I must keep an open mind. He thanked Hema and said, will you take me as your student and teach me what you know? I will share my limited knowledge with you too. She smiled and nodded. Let's work together. I'd really like that. Ajji ended the story and said, Aushadhi Janavi Toyam Vaidyo Narayano Harihi. This Sanskrit shloka says that when we have medicine, we must consider it sacred, like from the water of Ganga. The Lord comes to us in the form of doctor who gives us medicine and we must have faith and same faith. Damu and the children nodded solely and agreeing with her. That evening there was a heavy downpour, rain. Later the children ran outside to see what had happened to mango trees inside the compound. Damu was right. The small mangoes along with mango flower lay on the ground like yellow carpet and the trees seemed to be smiling, green and fresh. Story number 13th, The Case of the Mystery Pot. One morning, Ajji was making pulao, which was almost everyone's favorite. After some time, Ajji came out of the kitchen and said, I'm going with Kamlu to check on the cows. We will also feed them while we are there. Kids, I have finished cooking, but don't open the pressure cooker just yet. Let it settle and cool down on its own. We will have lunch as soon as I am back. The children nodded as they were busy completing their homework. Ajji left. A few minutes passed. Why is vegetable rice called pulao? Asked Raghu, suddenly a tad thoughtful. Pulao originated from Uzbekistan, answered Ajja. Originally, leftover vegetable along with the rice and some masala were cooked over slow fire in earthen pot. This was actually done for the soldiers as the food was nutritious and minimal oil was needed. They also used a salt plate made of wheat flour to cover the pot. Later, the recipe was modified and today pulao is cooked all over the India with different ingredients. Tell me, have you read about any other food that became internationally famous? Minestrone soup, said Raghu. One day I went out with dad and mom to an Italian restaurant. They ordered minestrone soup, which I found difficult to pronounce at first. After I came home and googled it, I found that leftover rice was cooked with some herbal vegetable and made it into a soup. Farmers could drink in the morning, go to work since it was light and nutritious. From there to now, it's known and world all over the country, customizing in their way and making their own. Very good, Raghu. Ajja beamed. That's when Ajja noticed Aditi and Meenu were missing. Ajja stood up slowly and carefully so as not to disturb other three children. He was going to go looking for the two girls. Meanwhile, Aditi and Meenu were feeling ravenous and couldn't resist for the following aroma of the pulao, which led to them in the kitchen. Aditi whispered, Ajji has instructed us not to open the lid. Don't be scared, Aditi. We will open in a little. When Meenu opened the lid, there was a loud boom. They tried to run out in the kitchen, such hurry that they both slipped. Ajja heard the noise and rushed to find Meenu and Aditi on the floor and the cooker whistling away. He understood what had happened. He found the nozzle of the pressure cooker and put it back on the cooker. Then he reached out both hands and pulled Meenu and Aditi. We just wanted to open it a little, Ajja, whimpered Aditi. We are fine. Nothing has happened to us. Ajja smiled. Curiosity kills the cat. Let me tell you something. Story. A long time ago, there lived a wise king. One day, he went hunting all alone, and when he was on his way back, it began raining. So the king found a dry spot on the veranda nearby hut, which belonged to a poor old woodcutter and his wife. As the king waited outside, he heard the couple speaking to each other. The wife said, "The hut is so old that it's falling apart and we have no food to eat. We are shivering too. There is no point to trying to find work. Who will give us a job? Think of our king. He gets clean and warm clothes and good food every day. I wish we had that." "Don't worry, at least we are together," said the woodcutter, trying to console his wife. "We will do the best as we can." The king couldn't resist himself anymore and knocked the door. When the couple opened the door, he said, "I heard your conversation. I will ensure that you will get warm clothes and good food. But will you accompany me back to the palace?" The couple was pleasantly surprised. "Yes, of course, your majesty," said the wife. "There is one condition," said the king. "You must obey me. The day you don't, you will be back here." "Your majesty, if we get the food, warm clothing and a place to stay, we will never question you," said the wife vehemently. The woodcutter also nodded in agreement. "In that case, lock your home and follow me. The rain has stopped and we will leave now," instructed the king. The wife locked the house and tucked the key away safely. The couple then followed the king. After walking what seemed like a long time, they reached to the palace. The king ordered one of his trusted servants to take care of them. "This man and wife are my personal guests. Look after them very well." Saying this, the king left, and the couple was left alone with the servant. The servant took them to a nice room which had warm food and a table and water heater. There were even silk robes in the bathroom. The couple took warm bath and pulled out the robes. They were about to sit on the dinner when the king walked in. "How do you like the room? Is it warm enough?" he asked. "Sir, we couldn't have dreamt of such a hospitable stay," said the old woodcutter. "It is beyond of our imagination." "Of course, you are my subjects. You can eat whatever you want and whatever you wish. But there is a small pot in your room with a lid on it. You must have to never open it. The day you opened it, you will have to back on your hut," said the king firmly. "Why we will need to open it when you have given us so much comfort," said the wife with a grateful smile. The king chatted with them for a few more minutes and left. At first, couple was ecstatic on the opportunity to experience the palace all over and had offered to the royal garden, the massive kitchen, sweet fruits and exquisite flower. After a few weeks, the wife glanced at the pot and said out loud, "I wonder what is inside it." "My dear wife, how does it matter as long we have enough?" After a few days, with nothing else to do, the wife said again, "I'm really curious to know what is inside the pot." Her husband refused to open it, but she didn't give up. She kept pestering her husband, who said harshly, "I have given my word to the king." The wife became unhappier as the day went by. She ate less, she talked less, she thought about the pot all time. Then she began fighting with her husband to open the lid of pot. Meanwhile, the king continued to visit them but noticed they were no longer happy. One day, while talking to the servant, the woodcutter wife heard that king has gone hunting to the forest and was expected to come back after a week. She went to her husband and said, "Dear, come, let's open the pot just a little bit. We will peep inside and close it quickly. No one will ever know. But we will know. What is the point of all this, dear? Why we should disobey the king? He has been kind to us and we have no reason to betray his trust." The wife was adamant. "No, I must know." Finally, the woodcutter gave it and lifted the lid of the pot. Smoke came out of all sudden and the woodcutter dropped the lid with a loud clatter. Within a second, a servant came inside and knew what had happened. Minutes later, the king had also joined the couple to the dismay. It seemed that news about him have gone hunting had been false. The king said, "You did not obey me. An idle person has nothing to do, which raise their curiosity matters are out of no concern to them." He looked at his wife and said, "You must have the key to your hut. I will give you some food and fruits to last for you some time. Go back to your home and try to find a work. It will keep you both healthy and happy." This is how the curiosity destroyed their comfortable and luxurious life. Meenu asked, "So we shouldn't be curious at all and always listen to others?" "No, I didn't say that. Curiosity in the right direction lead to an innovation and entrepreneurship. But if it is in the wrong direction, it has the potential to hurt other people and you. It also means that you must not intrude on someone's privacy." Meenu and Aditi looked at each other and felt ashamed. Story number 14. The Golden Bride and the Dancing Tiger. One day, Ajja thought that the family should have a picnic in the garden for change. The children decided to assist that day with Damu and Ajja's cooking expertise. And they insisted that Ajji and Kamlu Ajji relax and they do as they pleased. Damu was an expert cook while Ajja was just an ordinary one. The children who had no knowledge of cooking decided to make something simple and fun. Ajja suggested, "I have an electric tandoor that brought from Punjab during my visit there. We can make dal, roti, raita and rice." "That sounds yummy, Ajja," said Aditi. "While we set it up, why don't you go and clean the area where we have to do the picnic?" "Yes, of course, Ajja." Together the children helped clean the area under the mango tree. Raghu laid out mats, Krishna brought out plates and water, Meenu brought out spoons and ladles, and Aditi brought towels and soaps. Anushka arranged fruits and sweets. In the kitchen, Ajay had finished the kneading dough while Damu was in the middle of cooking both dal and dry vegetables side by side. The children saw tandoor and they found it iron rod with a hook quite amusing. They enjoyed taking out the process of cooking rotis in the tandoor. "Taking out the rotis from the tandoor is not easy, kids. It takes an expert to know and how to do this," said Ajja proudly. It took some time for the fresh rotis to be made, but soon the group sat down to eat to lunch. "Such good rotis! I love rotis," said Krishna. "Yum! I like dessert," said Meenu. "But I like dal," said Raghu. Everyone managed to eat something that they really liked. "Some people are happy with the food, some with clothes, and some with animals," remarked Damu. "Do animals dance?" asked Krishna. "Sometime I have saw a dog dance," he replied. Ajja said, "I have seen a horse dancing." "I have seen a bear dancing," said Raghu. "Well, I know of a tiger that dances," said Damu. "Really?" asked Anushka. "Where? Is he in this village?" "I'm scared," said Meenu and looked horrified. "Nonsense, Damu," said Ajja. "There is no such thing." "There is, Ajja," said Damu. "I had heard the story about such a tiger when I was very young." Story. There was once a pious old man in the village who often helped others. He had 3 sons. One day he fell ill, and nobody knew that he was on his deathbed. He called his son Ram, Shyam and Shashi and said to them, "I don't have too much to leave for you except 3 things: a round stone grinder, a big horn of an animal, and a drum." He gave the grinder to his oldest son Shyam, an empty hollow horn to his second son Shyam, and the drum to his third son Shashi. Within a few days, the old man passed away. The 3 brothers took their gift and departed from the village. Soon they came out on the crossroads. Each one decided to take a different road. "Let us meet back after here to see what we did with our gifts and how it was useful to us," said Ram. Shyam and Sashi agreed and then went their own. Ram walked miles until it was evening. He was exhausted. From a distance, he saw a lamp, but he did not have energy to walk all the way there. So he stopped near a banyan tree and decided that it was safe enough for him to sleep on the top of the branches instead of the ground. He held the grinder with both arms and slept between branches. Hours later, he woke up and startled. He heard two voices underneath the branches and realized that they were two thieves, were in deep discussion about the wealth they had just looted and how they planned to divide it. Ram became afraid and worried about the thief finding him. In his nervousness, he touched the wooden handle of the grinder and made a full circle with it. As there was nothing inside to grind, there was a loud, harsh noise. Krrrr. The thieves looked up, afraid, but in the dark night, they couldn't see anything. They looked on either side on the tree, but there was no one either. "Did you hear?" asked one of the thieves. "Was that a monster? Perhaps one that lives in a tree? I have heard from many people that banyan tree can have monsters in living them." "That is not true." Ram realized that they were very afraid of that sound and the grinder made. So he turned the wooden handle 2 more times. Krrrr, krrrr. The thieves stood up. Ram repeated it again and again and again. The sound was much louder and harsher than before. The thieves became terrified and ran away, leaving their loot under the tree. Ram waited for a few hours until it was early morning and came down from the tree. He found that the thieves had left 2 heavy bags of gold and jewelry. Ram took that bags and walked away. Then he thanked his father in his mind for giving him the stone grinder, with the help of which he had now become a very, very rich man. Then the second son, Shyam. Now the second brother, Shyam, had followed his path and reached the outskirts of the village. He wanted to reach the village quickly, but it began raining heavily. "I will go there tomorrow morning," he thought. So he stopped near a banyan tree and decided that it was safe enough for him to sleep among his branches instead of the ground. He hid the horn in the hole of the trunk and slept between the branches. In the middle of the night, he heard 2 people speaking quietly each other under the banyan tree. One said, "I have done an excellent job today. The village headman's daughter had her birthday celebration, which I was given the task of making many delicious things. In the party, I followed your instruction and added the medicine to the food. It will make her stay in deep sleep all night." "Wonderful," said the second man. "She won't get up till the evening tomorrow. Until then, people will think that she's dead. That will be when we go and offer her this medicine to wake her up. The headman will be happy and she is awake, and he may ask what we want. I will tell that I want to be married to his daughter. Once we are married, I will give you plenty of money." Shyam understood that the 2 men below the tree were a cook and a crook plotting against the innocent girl. He felt pity for the girl, whom he had not even seen. The crook said, I have a hard day at work, so let us rest here till the morning, but we need to hide the medicine before we sleep." "Look," said the crook, "there is a hole in the trunk of the tree. Keep the medicine there. No one will think of checking there. We can sleep without worry in the world." The crook reached out his hand and kept the medicine in the horn, hidden in the hole of the trunk. The 2 men finally settled under the tree. There was cool breeze in the air. The men began snoring within minutes. Shyam knew what he had to do. Early the next morning, he got down from the tree, picked up the horn and the medicine he was lying inside it. He quickly walked into the village, but kept mum. He wanted to confirm that man had said. Soon enough, there was a commotion in the village market. "The birthday girl refused to wake up," someone said. "She looks dead, but she isn't it," said another. The village doctor was called, but unsuccessful in rousing her. As she was the only child of the village headman and the entire family was in the tears. The headman begged the crowd surrounding in his house, "Is there anyone who can wake up my daughter? I will give them whatever they want. We cannot live without her." Shyam obeyed this for some time and then walked up to the headman and said, "Sir, I will try to cure her." He took the medicine and put in the girl's mouth until she swallowed in. Within a few minutes, she woke up. There was a joy all around. People hugged him and shook his hand, thanking him profusely. The headman offered Shyam a lot of money for saving his daughter, but he refused. He took the headman aside and told him what he heard the previous night and the sequence events. The headman welcomed his honesty and said, "You are the young and helpful man.
Perhaps you are the best man worthy of my daughter. I would like two of you to be married. If you agree, we can perform the engagement ceremony today. This is how Shyam agreed to the marry to the village girl and also liked the handsome young man. The cook and the crook woke up late afternoon and searched high and low for the medicine. It was not there in the whole of tree trunk. They were certain that nobody could have stolen it. So they assumed that a bird may have flown off with it and nobody in the village would know about their plan. Satisfied that they would be safe and returned to the village, they walked back. From a distance, they saw that there was a festivities in the village. The cook stopped by passerby and asked, "What is going on there?" "Aren't you cook of the house?" said the man. "Don't you know? The daughter of the headman is getting engaged in the evening." A young man saved her life using a special medicine. "How is that possible?" wondered the both men. When they approached the headman's house, they were surrounded by the police and arrested. "What have I done?" asked the cook. "I don't even know this village," said the crook. The headman stepped forward, exposed their plot, and the police escorted them to jail. The puzzled look on their faces spoke volumes. They still didn't understand how the medicine reached till the headman's house. Now the third brother, Shashi. Meanwhile, Shashi took the road that led to the forest. It was already dark, so he stopped under a banyan tree and decided that it was safe enough for him to sleep among the branches instead of the ground. He couldn't fall asleep, so he began to play the drum. To his surprise, a tiger came and stood under the banyan tree. He seemed to have a thorn in his paw, which was very painful. After some time, the tiger wanted to climb the tree and attack Shashi, but he couldn't. He fell down again and again. During his effort to climb and find a grape, a thorn fell out of his paw, and Tiger's pain was immediately relieved. For a few minutes, Tiger listened to the continuous drumming and feeling relaxed. He began dancing. Shashi found it amusing. The more he drummed, the more Tiger danced. Shashi was afraid to stop drumming in the case Tiger changed his mind and attacked him. So he drummed the whole night, and the tiger danced until it exhausted and slept in the wee of the hours in the morning. Slowly Shashi came down from the tree and was just about to make his exit when the tiger stirred and opened his eyes. Shashi thought, "Oh no, he will kill me now." The tiger, however, did not harm him. When he walked away, Tiger followed him. Shashi played the drum while walking and noticed whenever he drummed, the tiger danced. Whenever he stopped, the tiger followed him and did not attack. That's when Shashi realized that Tiger liked him and was happy to be with him. Soon, Shashi had made his way out of the forest. He entered the village, but the people saw the tiger around him and ran away. Shashi pleaded, "Please don't be afraid. Come close. I will beat my drum and Tiger will dance for you." At first, people were skeptical. But then they saw him beat the drumming and the tiger danced. They gave him some money for the entertaining him. In the evening, Shashi and the tiger went back to the forest. Shashi ate food and again slept on the branch of the banyan tree. This became his routine. The tiger joined him when he got down from the tree in the morning, and together they went to different villages in town, and Tiger would dance to beat on the drum of his own. They would come back to the forest in the evening. In the time, other animals of the forest also became Shashi's friend. Soon a king had heard of the tiger's whisperer and sent a word to Shashi to come and perform for him capital. Politely, Shashi sent a word back through the king messenger. The tiger has not returned to the forest in the evening, and we cannot make the journey to the capital. It's long distance away. I will be grateful if the king comes here to see our unique show. The king understood the relationship of the tiger with the forest. So he came and enjoyed the dance the tiger. He told Shashi, "I have forest close to the capital city. I will give you 10,000 gold coins if the tiger and you live there. Then you can perform the show in my court regularly." Shashi replied, "Sir, the tiger is part of my family. His comfort is more important for me. He is not for sale, just like this drum which is gift from my father. Whenever you want to see him, please come here. I promise that we will entertain you." The king was pleased that Shashi had considered the animal as the part of his family, and he said, "I salute you, young man," he said, "for caring so deeply for the animal. There are few men in the world like you. Here, take this. I would still like to give you some money when I can." The king gave Shashi some gold coin in return to his palace. A year passed by, and the three brothers met again at the crossroad of the village. They shared the stories and thanked their father in the heaven for their three special gifts. What a wonderful story, Damu!
Ajja said, sounding pleased. Yes, Damu, I really enjoyed your story, said Meenu. Thank you, Meenu. I have heard many stories from Ajji while working with her. Sometime when I have do nothing at the night, I lie down on the veranda, look at the stars and the sky and create stories. I also have two brothers, that's how I thought of this story. Story number 15, A Ship on the Land. One day, Raghu got a call from his friend George in Bangalore. There were two festivals for which George always invited his friends home, Christmas and Easter. Usually, George's parents hosted a big Easter party every year for all their relatives and friends, but not this year. Raghu has been to George's Easter party the year before. There was a wonderful spread of food with lot of cakes, gifts and music. George told him, "It was so boring this year, Raghu. It was just my parents, my grandmother who has moved with us in the duration of the lockdown and me. When there were no people in, there is no fun in the celebration and the festival. At least you have your cousins with you. I'm all alone here." George's mother worked in travel agency and their offices were closed. "My mother is worried and frustrated," said George. "When she works, she is active and full of life. Now she is restless at home and I'm missing all of you. Can you come here for a few days, George?" asked Raghu. "It will be so much fun and I will finally my own friend. My grandparents will be pleased to have another child in the house. My grandmother says we must not go anywhere right now. On the top of that, my father has placed restriction on screen time too. I'm waiting for you to come back so that I can see you." "Me too. When I will come back, I will tell you many stories that I've heard here. Let's call each other frequently," said Raghu and said goodbye. A few hours later, Krishna got a call from her friend Salma. Salma said, "I'm getting really bored here. All adults above the age 60 are at my house became. My parents are both doctors. Most of our extended family decided to come here. I'm only the child, so they focus all their energy on me. Why I'm not eating, should I have done my homework, what I should wear, what I should listen to them. It never ends. It's too much. I'm stuck with all these ajis at home. Still, I'm happy that my parents are helping people during the time. But I don't know how Eid will be celebrated this year with all this going on. When are you coming back, Krishna? I need a change in my life. I wish I could come there to see you." Krishna laughed. "Here the number of children are more than the number of adults. Don't worry, Salma. Hang in there. After I come back, I will share many stories to you your liking. Once the lockdown ends, I'm sure that many of your guests will go back." After she had finished the call, Ajji said, "I'm glad that your children have friends. You can share things with them. But it is difficult to get good friends. Once you get them, don't take the relationship for granted. Look at Kamlu, Ajji and me. We are friends because we like to each other. We understand each other and love to chat happily, exact like Vishnu and his friends." "Who is Vishnu, Ajji? Where does he live?" said Krishna. "Let me tell you about him." Story. A long time ago, there lived a king who ruled a great and big kingdom. Since he was powerful king, he always got what he wanted. After some time, he was bored and thought, "I want to own something unusual." One day, while looking out to the sea, he saw ships sailing. He wondered, "Why shouldn't I own a ship which sails on land?" No one has ever thought of this idea. Excited about his idea, he made an announcement all over the kingdom. "Whoever can make me a ship that sails on land will be awarded a royal position in the court." People laughed. "How can this ever happen?" They said, "A ship by default sails only on the water." There was a carpenter in the kingdom who lived nearby the woods. He had 3 children. He asked them, "Why don't you try and work on something that looks like a ship but works on land?" Early the next morning, the first son, Kiran, carried some food in the box and set out towards the forest. He came across a fine teakwood tree. He chopped it down and began working on creating a ship. Once it was time for breakfast, he opened his box. A bumblebee approached and said, "I used to live on this teakwood tree. You have cut the tree down and I don't have any more home. I am starving. Will you share your wheel with it?" "Me?" Kiran refused. "I am sorry, but I don't have much to share with you right now. I have much work to do and I need energy." "What are you building?" asked the bumblebee. "I'm making wooden ladders for the king," said Kiran, since he didn't want to tell the truth. "Oh, wooden ladders for the king," repeated the bumblebee and flew away. After the breakfast, Korean kept cutting the wood and everything came out in the shape of wooden ladles. He tried until evening but couldn't make anything other than the ladles. Disappointed, he came back home. The carpenter said anxiously, "Did you manage to make anything?" "No, father, I couldn't find a suitable tree. The tree was too small that they were fit only wooden ladles." Early the next morning, the second son, Sandeep, carried food in the box and set out towards the forest. He came across a fine teakwood tree. He chopped it down and began working on creating a ship. Once it was time for breakfast, he opened the box. A bumblebee approached him and said, "I used to live on this teakwood tree. You have cut down the tree and I am now homeless. I am starving. Will you share your food with me?" Sandeep refused. "No, I'm sorry, Bumblebee. I don't have much to share with you right now. I have much work to do and I need energy." "What are you building?" asked the Bumblebee. Sandeep, since he didn't want to tell the truth, he said, "I'm making wooden plates for the king." "Oh, wooden plates for the king," repeated the Bumblebee and flew away. After the breakfast, Sandeep kept cutting the wood and everything came in the shape of wooden plates. He tried until evening but couldn't make anything that the plates. Disappointed, he came back home. The carpenter asked anxiously, "Did you manage to make anything?" "No, father, I couldn't find a suitable tree. The tree was too small that they were only fit for wooden plates." Early the next morning, the third son, Vishnu, carried some food in the box and set out towards the forest. He came across a fine teakwood tree. Vishnu stood and prayed to the tree. He said, "I must cut you down for the special project for the king. I'm sorry that this will interfere the life that you have and the living things that surround you. Please forgive me. I will plant 20 other trees to compensate your loss." Saying this, Vishnu chopped the tree down and began working on creating a ship. Once it was time for breakfast, he opened his box. A bumblebee approached him and said, "I used to live in the teakwood tree. You have cut down the tree and I don't have any home more. I'm starving. Will you share your meal with me?" "Of course," said Vishnu. "In fact, I must feed you since you have lost your home because of me. Come, let us share." Though the bumblebee was small, she ate a lot. But after she was full, she said, "Come, I will also help you. But what are you making?" "I want to make a ship for the king that sails on the land." "Oh, ship that sails on the land," repeated the bumblebee and stayed with him. After breakfast, Vishnu continued to cut the wood. The bumblebee helped him in everything and came out in unusual shapes. At lunch, Bumblebee and Vishnu shared the food. They immediately got back to work and soon it was evening. The ship was ready. The decoration and the interior furniture was also done. He thanked the bumblebee for the help and began sailing on it. On the way, he saw a man drinking water directly from a river. "What is the matter? Why are you drinking so much water?" "I'm extremely thirsty. No matter what I do, it's not enough for me. It's torturous. Come on and join me here on the ship. I'm going to hand this over the king and I will request to quench your thirst," said Vishnu, and the man agreed. They sailed further and saw a man sitting and eating a pile of apples. "What are you doing?" Vishnu asked. "I'm famished. No amount of food can satisfy me. It's excruciating. Come on and join us here on the ship. I'm going to hand this over the king and I will request you to give you food until you have eaten your fill," said Vishnu, and the man agreed. The men sailed further and saw a strong man carrying a huge load of wood on his back. "What are you doing?" "I have a stepmother who doesn't treat me well unless I bring much wood home every day. It's exhausting. I just want to earn some money to take care of myself." "Come and join us here on the ship. I'm going to help you by handing this over the king and I will request him to help you," said Vishnu, and the man agreed. The man sailed further and saw a man sitting feeding numerous dogs and cats. "What are you doing?" "I don't have any skill. Whatever I managed to earn, I used to buy food and feed to these strays. Come on and join me here. I'm going to hand over the king and I will request him to help you and take care of the strays," said Vishnu, and the man agreed. When the 5 men reached the capital, the king came to see the ship. He was joyous and extremely pleased. Not only it was sailing the ship, but the decor was also much better than his palace. He took a tour of the ship, saw how it worked, and finally met Vishnu and the carpenter's son. Vishnu wore regular clothing and so did his friend. The king thought, "How can I give a royal position to this ordinary man? I will test him first." So he said, "Vishnu, I want to award you the royal position, but I have some conditions." Vishnu nodded. The king pointed to a big pond of water and said, "This must be emptied by tomorrow morning." He pointed to a big pile of bread and said, "This must be eaten by tomorrow morning." He pointed to a group of trees and said, "All this must be cut pieces into the big playground by tomorrow morning." He pointed to a big playground and said, "This must be full of cat and dog by tomorrow morning." Though it wasn't the part of contract or the announcement that was made, Vishnu smiled and said, "I will try to complete the task, sir." The king left and the Vishnu and his friends went back to his duties for the day. Vishnu's friend turned to him and said, "We can do all things for you. Wait and watch." The thirsty man drank all the water from the pond and quenched his thirst. The hungry man ate all the bread and satisfied his hunger. The strong man cut the wood in no time and realized he could make enough money by himself and didn't need to go back to his stepmother. The kind man whistled and called his dogs and cats, filling the playground within minutes. The next day, when the king came, all the tasks were completed and done well. Vishnu and his friends stood nearby. The king realized that it is not the appearance or the clothing that matters, but the skill and the talent of the person. "I will be honored to have all of you in my court. The 5 of you will be given royal position. You will be my trusted advisor and rewarded handsomely for your work in the court and the kingdom." This is how Vishnu made his father proud and made new friends who would stay with him for the lifetime. Story number 16. Two Blind Beggars. Now almost 40 days had passed. Still the lockdown continued. There were no flights, trains, or buses running to take people back home. Many schools had informed parents that online classes would start in June if the situation didn't improve. The children were not looking forward to the online classes because they wanted to see their friends and play with them. Ajja remarked, "The online class will lead to the excessive screen time. It might cause addiction or at the very least eye strain. But right now I can't think of a solution of this problem." Ajja closely followed the developments around COVID-19 in India. One evening, while Ajja was watching the news, the children decided to play hide and seek with a twist. The seeker had to keep his eyes covered with a handkerchief while seeking. The children found a handkerchief and decided that Meenu would be the first. Meenu rebelled. "I don't want to be the first one." "Come on, everyone will have to do it. Start, Meenu." They all started to clamor. Reluctantly, she agreed. Everyone ran away from her. At first, she wasn't able to seek anyone. After some time, Anushka felt sorry for her and touched her so that it would be her turn and Meenu would be free. Now Anushka had to blind herself. She found it hard to catch anyone. Soon she pretended to be super tired and stood quietly in a corner. Soon enough, Aditi tripped on her foot and was caught. When it was Aditi's turn, she caught Raghu immediately. Meenu sighed. "I'm short. Besides, it find hard to run fast. I was afraid to go first because I really felt that I could never seek anyone and would have to remain blind for the rest of the game." Aditi said, "Let me tell you a secret. The handkerchief was not wrapped properly and I could see your shadows in front of my eyes. It was easy to catch for me." To Raghu, "Have you ever thought how hard it is for someone who is born blind or become visually changed for any reason? We must thank God for whatever we have blessed with. Eyes to see, ears to hear, tongue to taste, leg to walk, and brain to think. Being at the right place at the right time can change our lives," said Ajja. "Yes," added Ajji, "like two blind beggars." Story. Once upon a time, there lived a blind beggar, Ravi, who begged from door to door every day. One day, he met another beggar called Vivek, who was also blind like him. They decided to beg together. Vivek would always take the better portion of the food they received. Every day he would take the soft portion of the bread and leave the crust for Ravi. Time passed. Ravi grew tired of this. One day Vivek left Ravi near a forest and said that he had walked for miles. He said, "Brother, I have some work in village nearby. Rest here and I will be back soon." Ravi was feeling tired and sat down on a rock and waited for Vivek. Hours passed and there was no sign of Vivek. The day turned into the night and Ravi realized that Vivek will never come back. Hungry with no place to go, Ravi decided to walk and see if he would run into someone who could help. Unfortunately, his path took him straight to the middle of the thick forest. After he had entered the forest, he realized through his senses where he was. It was the middle of the night. Suddenly, Ravi heard someone and managed to find a huge bush. He hid behind it. The footsteps came closer. A fox, a wolf, a rhino, and a lion gathered for a meeting. The fox announced, "I know a secret." The wolf said, "So do I." And Rhino added, "Me too. I'm the king of the forest, but I don't know any secrets," remarked Lion. "But tell me, I order to you." The fox said, "There is a river from 100 footsteps from here. Months ago, I had become blind in my one eye. When I went to this river and had a bath, I got my vision back. That's the useful secret I know." "I know a different one," said the wolf. "The king's palace doesn't get any water. What the king's people don't know that there is a big rock around in the royal gardens. If you move that rock and dig underneath it, they will find a spring. The water is healthy and enough to take care of need in the palace of the city of the kingdom." "Listen to this one," said the rhino. "The king's wife is unwell. Doctors have tried their best, but nothing has helped her. The medicine for her disease lie below a stream near the king's palace. If she eats 5 leaves from the plant that grow near the oak tree next to the stream, she will be well again." "I will keep this in mind," said the lion. "These are safe with me." The fox suggested, "Keep them for a time, then we might need to share with someone to make our life better in the forest." "Let us meet back after 2 months," said the lion, and meeting ended. Ravi, who had been listening to this conversation, wanted his eyesight back. Desperately, he came out from the behind bush and walked 100 steps in one direction. There was nothing there. He walked back 100 steps to his original location. He did twice more before he heard the sound of water and found the river. Carefully, he entered the river and had a bath. He began to see a little bit. He bathed for a little longer and saw clearly again. He was very thankful for the animals and the gods. Now that he could see, he went to the capital city and requested an audience with the king. He said, "Sir, please give me some time. I will help you get your water for the city and also cure your wife." The king was hopeful and allowed him to do as he was pleased. The same day, Ravi went to the royal gardens and removed the big round rock in one corner, kept digging until he found the water. Soon there was a beautiful spring in the gardens. Next, he found the oak tree near the stream that was closer to the king's palace. Under the oak tree, he found a medicinal plant. He gave 5 of its leaves to the queen, which she ate and became much better the next day. The king was pleased with his service and gave him plenty of money, and Ravi bought a mansion and lived happily in the capital. Almost 2 months passed. One day, when Ravi was standing near the gate of his house, he saw a blind man wandering around the street. He took pity on the beggar and called him to his gate to give food. When he heard his voice, Ravi recognized him immediately. It was the Vivek, his blind beggar friend. Ravi modulated his voice and said, "Some time ago, I saw you with another blind man. Where is he?" For a few seconds, Vivek thought that he was hearing a familiar voice, but since he wasn't sure, he ignored it and replied, "Sir, he is dead." "How did he die?" asked Ravi, surprised at his surprise. "There was a stormy night and the flood must have come and taken him away. Later, someone from our village found his dead body," said Vivek with sadness. Ravi took pity on his friend and he was lucky that he had received his sight back, but Vivek hadn't. Ravi disclosed the truth. "Hey buddy, I'm Ravi, old friend. You were instrumental in changing my life, so I will not hold what you said against me. You left me in the forest and that's where my transformation began." Truthfully, Ravi shared the whole story. "I happened to be at the right place at the right time," he said. He advised Vivek not to betray anyone again. Vivek said, "Will you take me to the river? I can't imagine what it could be like to get my back vision. Animals can be cruel. Somehow I managed to escape. If I go there, I am sure that they will smell me and realize that I am the one who heard their secrets. But I will come with you till a certain point and show you the way to the tree. After that, you are on your own, I am afraid." True to his words, Ravi walked him and till a Vivek and till a distance, they pointed him to the right direction. Vivek started walking quickly, but he wasn't scared of the animals. By the time he had reached the tree, it was night. The time of the day makes different to him, it makes different to animals. So he decided to wait behind a bush until the morning. In the middle of the night, a fox, a wolf, and a rhino and a lion gathered for a meeting. They seemed worried. The fox said, "It has been 2 months since we met. Since then, I heard someone had found the location of the healing river. Only I knew the secret. Who has disclosed this to humans?" The wolf and the rhino agreed that their secrets had been revealed too. Three turned to the lion. "We all have secrets and it collective benefit to keep the secrets of other. You are only the person who hadn't any secret to tell. You must be responsible for revealing them." The lion snapped, "I'm the king of the forest, not a cheater. A king will not betray his subjects' trust." "Then who else knew the secret?" wondered the fox. "Perhaps someone had heard us talking," said the wolf, smelling the air. He used all his senses and the animals found Vivek hiding behind the bush. He was petrified when he saw the animals with their menacing glares. Too late, he realized he was at the wrong place, at the wrong time. "He is the one who was responsible for disclosing our secrets," roared the lion with anger. The animals attacked Vivek and killed him. Story 17, An Apple for Nothing. In the evening, Ajji was sitting with the children and showing them how to use their hand to make shadows like figure on the wall in dim light. Though she was an amateur, it was still delightful for the children to see. Ajji taught them how to make different animals and shapes too. She said, "I learnt all this in my childhood days. Those days I had no electricity and very few books, so I had to find a way to entertain myself. These days there are so many mediums and so many animated stories for the kids to see. It is considered art and a big field on its own. People often fantasized about the magic when I was young. When a magician came to our village, all of us need to gather around him and watch in big amazement. It was much later that we realized it was simply art and science, and anyone can learn and excel it. Ajji, you barely told us any story about the magic. Come, please tell us one story about magic," said Krishna. "I love magic. And don't try to teach us anything through this. Please, Ajji," pleaded Anushka. Story. Once upon a time, there lived a farmer named Madhu. He was a good farmer but also a miser. He worked very hard and grew a lot of apples. He put them all in a cart and took them into the market to sell. There was a poor man sitting in the market square. He looked famished. He asked Madhu, "Oh farmer, will you give me one apple? I'm very hungry." "No," said Madhu, "but I'm starving and I haven't eaten more than a day. You have so many apples in your cart. Will you not give me one?" asked the old man, unfazed. "Of course not. I have worked really hard to make one for sale. Go and ask someone else." "Please, farmer." "Go away, old man," snapped Madhu. "Give me one apple and you will have my blessing." "I don't need your blessings, old man. I need money," said Madhu harshly. The old man smiled at him and he said, "Everyone needs blessing, my child." "Blessing will not bring me profit," said Madhu and began to argue with him. A kind, compassionate woman who was passing by bought one apple and gave it to the old man. Before the old man started to eat, he made an announcement in the market square. "I invite all of you to come here and eat as many apples as you want." People chuckled. What was the poor man talking about? Madhu laughed at him. "If you had anything to eat or give, you would not have begged me for an apple." "Wait, let me eat." The old man finished the apple and took the seeds and planted them in a pit nearby and covered it with the mud. He asked for the water and someone from the market square gave him a pot of water. He poured it on an apple seeds. Within a few seconds, a sapling appeared. Within a few minutes, it became a tree. Within half hour, red and tempting apples were hanging from tree. By then, a big crowd had gathered around. The old man announced, "Come, eat the apple from the tree." People were pleasantly surprised to get a free apple. Many took one and went their ways while eating it. Madhu also took one apple from the tree and placed it in his pocket, wondering what he had just seen. An old man cut down a tree with an axe and began ready to leave the market with the pieces on the wooden in his shoulder. Madhu was frustrated. He thought, why I should work so much hard? So, for a cart of apples, this old man distributed more than a cart of apples to everyone in less than an hour. I must learn this trick from him so I can also grow fruits and become rich quickly. He saw the old man leaving the market. Madhu turned to his cart, asked the mango vendor standing to him to look after his apples, and turned in the direction of old man. But there was no sign of the old man, the trees, its leaf, or the axe. Madhu wondered, did I see what I did? Was it really true or perhaps just my imagination? He went back to his cart. His apples were disappeared too. Madhu scratched his eyes. Absent-mindedly, he put his hand in one of his pockets. He found an apple, the one he had taken from the old man. He ate it. It tasted the same like the ones he had grown in his garden. Oh no! The apples that he been distributed were his. The old man had created an illusion. It was a magic. A great magician had cheated him. I wish I had just given him one apple in the beginning when he had asked it for. Then I must have been saved my entire cart. I have been a penny wise and a pound foolish, thought Madhu. Story number 18. The Four Dolls. Soon, the news of easing of the lockdown was announced. Flights, trains and the buses had started moving again. Ajji felt relieved, but it was a bittersweet feeling. She was happy and sad, happy because life was going to inch back to normalcy over the time, and sad because Kamlu Ajji and kids were leaving the next day. The kids had been in their company for the last 2 months and had brought sunshine into their regimented life. I wish the kids could stay here permanently, Ajji said. It's always good to have a cake, said Ajja with a smile. But you can't eat it all the time, can you? I understand, said Ajji, sighing. She thought of the country and the children's future and knew that it was better for them to return their homes and schools. Life must go on, she said. We have to be careful and yet continue our work. She wanted to send something back for the children. She looked at the Kamlu Ajji and said, Damu is here. We are here. Let's make ubattu, a type of sweet chapati filled with jaggery, ghee, chana and other ingredients. Each family can carry up few packets and we'll also send 2 big extra packets, one for Salma and one for your George. You make poha well too, said Kamlu Ajji. Then I will make also packets of those. Say, and Meenu can take some extra for her friends in Mumbai. Ajja added, I like Kod Bale, a specialty of Karnataka. I'm brilliant at eating but useless as making these snacks. Everyone laughed. Damu offered his service. He said, Ajji, I will make it. Ajji said, make several packets of it. You can make extra for yourself and Aditi's friends. Damu and the 2 grandmothers soon got busy making snacks and the day went by quickly. The next day, Ajji got the children ready in the morning. Ajji said, remember the stories and lessons you have learned in the last 2 months and don't forget them. Keep your word to your friends, be kind and help others. Keep your surroundings clean too. And please bring your friends with you next time. After an early lunch, Kamlu Ajji and the 5 children would set out to the Bangalore with office manager who would come to them and drive them to the Bangalore. From there, Raghu and Meenu would catch a flight to Mumbai. This was a different holiday, said Ajja. The children hugged Ajja and Ajji and touched their feet. Ajji said, study well, compassion, wisdom and knowledge and courage. These 4 qualities will make you a good person. It is like a balanced meal. You must have roti, vegetable, dal and rice. You can not eat only one. Ajji turned to Kamlu Ajji and said, we have spent more than time we have ever spent together and it has been fantastic. Without your help, I wouldn't have been able to take care of the children like this. And we wouldn't have been able to share our joys and the sorrows. I came for 4 days instead, spent the most wonderful 60 days of my life with you. I heard many stories, remembered some of my childhood stories, and shared with them, the children too. I will cherish this trip forever, said Kamlu Aji as she held Ajji's hand tightly. We will all meet again, said Ajja, but under better circumstances and not with the threat of coronavirus looking over us. Ajji, said Anushka, please tell one more story before we go. The children whooped and yelled in agreement. Ajji grinned, let me tell you one. It is about the blessing I just gave you. Story. Once upon a time, there was a doll maker who was very good at his craft. He had a son named Anil. When Anil grew up, he said to his father, Father, I want to see the world. I want to venture out and find my own path. Please bless me. Unfortunately, the doll maker was not a rich man, but he blessed his son with all his heart. When Anil got ready to leave, his father said, I don't know much about the outside world as I haven't traveled much and I don't have any resource to give you. I only have the dolls, so take these 4 dolls with you. They might be useful in your journey. These are special dolls and I have crafted them carefully and dressed them with the best I have. Before Anil could say a word, the doll maker continued. The first doll, dressed like a king, carries wisdom. The second doll, dressed like a soldier, carries courage. The third doll, dressed like a simple man, carried knowledge. The fourth doll, dressed like a hermit, carries compassion. Anil did not want to carry the dolls with him everywhere, but he couldn't refuse his father's wish. So he put them in his bag. My child, knowledge and courage must always work under wisdom and compassion. Only then will be life beautiful, said the doll maker and bid his son goodbye. Anil walked and walked until he reached a spot which was already noon. He was tired and wanted to rest. He wondered out loud, Is it right to rest here? Who can help me out? Suddenly, the doll that was dressed like a king came to life. It emerged from the bag and said, It is important to have wisdom in an unknown land. The key to wisdom is observation. Look around before making a decision, otherwise people will take advantage of you. The doll went back into the bag. Anil looked around him and noticed a snake skin near a tree. He realized that snake was around somewhere and decided to walk further to find another resting place. He continued his journey for some time. By the time he found another spot, it had begun raining. It was about to rest when he remembered the king doll's advice. He looked around and saw the footprints of a lion nearby him. This is also not a safe place to stay, he thought, and walked further. A few kilometers ahead, he stopped and looked around him again. He didn't observe anything of concern and rested there for a long time. The next day, he decided to walk the nearest city. When he reached the outskirts, he saw a big mansion with a lot of activity happening around. He wondered, how can I also become a rich and own a mansion? The moment he thought so, the soldier of courage emerged from the bag and said, Have courage. If you don't, you will never be able to fulfill your dreams. A life without courage is never prosperous. What should I do? Asked Anil. I don't have the knowledge to answer your question truthfully, said that doll of courage and went back. A minute later, the doll of knowledge emerged and said, This area looks prosperous because the land is good. Take a piece of land that doesn't belong to anyone. Pointing to an area with boulders, the doll said, Take that, it has gold mine. Be strong and courageous and begin working there. The doll of knowledge returned to the bag. Anil went to that area that the doll had pointed to. He learned that no one was using the land and found owner's address after asking a few people. Anil directly went to the owner's house and bought the land for a cheap price. Within some days, Anil had begun to get rid of the land of the boulders. Just as the doll had predicted, there was a gold mine underneath. Very quickly, Anil became one of the richest people in that area. The doll of knowledge frequently came alive and advised Anil how to expand his business and where to buy the lands. One day, the doll of knowledge pointed to Anil the land whose owner refused to sell despite Anil offering him increased market price. A month passed. One day, the owner of the land, an old man, fell terribly ill and didn't have money for his treatment. With a heavy heart, he decided to sell the land. Anil acquired it and began building his mansion. He thought that he had fulfilled his dream with courage and knowledge. When old man was handing the land To Anil, his beautiful daughter Pushpa approached Anil with tears. She said, "This is no less than cheating. You are rich and we are poor. Helpless people like us are forced to sell our ancestral land due to genuine reason. I'm horrified that we have to sell our land." Anil fell silent and Pushpa left with her father. Though the girl had spoken harshly, Anil liked her. "I should marry her, a straightforward girl like her," he thought, and sent a marriage proposal to her. The girl declined his proposal. The doll of knowledge advised her, "Tell the girl that you will return the land to her father if you marry you." Still, Pushpa refused to marry him. Anil became despondent. He was rich and had a big mansion, yet the girl was rejected him. Suddenly he remembered the hermit doll. When he did, the doll came alive and looked at him questioningly. Anil asked, "I have so much money, yet I am unhappy. Tell me the reason." The hermit replied, "You cannot everyone with the money. People will pretend to listen to you for the sake of it. The day the money is gone, nobody will talk to you. Instead, try compassion. If you genuinely take care for the peoples, then they will care for you too." Saying this, the hermit doll returned to the bag. Next, Anil asked the doll of knowledge, "What should I do to make the peoples happy? How do I take care of their needs?" "Build roads, ponds, hospitals for the poor. Look after the animals in shelters and care for the living more than you do for the money. That is the best way you can help the people," said the doll of knowledge. Anil took the advice of both dolls and started doing the work to address the need of the peoples and the society. The poor had to walk less with better roads. They had easier access to water with the ponds he built and free medical treatment. It made them very happy. A few years went by. One day, Pushpa came to his mansion and with her father. Anil was happy to see her, but he wondered about what reason for her visit. "I'm sorry, I took your land. You may take it back with the mansion if you are wishing. It doesn't matter to me anymore, as long as you are the one who owns it." "No, we haven't came here to beg for ask you for our property," said the old man. "I have received free treatment from the hospital you built, and that is why Pushpa and I decided to come here. She has reconsidered the proposal, seeing the work you have doing and people like us. I have come to give my daughter's hand in marriage to you if you still want to be with her." Anil felt ecstatic. He had failed to win Pushpa's heart with the gold and money, but his good deeds had accomplished his desire anyway. Soon the two were wed, and Anil invited Pushpa and his father to come and stay with them. He thanked his father for giving him the right dolls at the right time. Anil lived with the rest of happy life with being rich, wise, courageous and knowledgeable and compassionate. The last story of this book, The Greatest Medicine of All. With their bags all packed, it was the time for kids and Kamluaji to leave when Ajja's phone rang. It was from the office manager who they had been waiting for to come and pick them to Bangalore. He spoke from the other end of the line, but apologetically, "I'm delayed as I'm awaiting the police clearance to travel the village." Anushka asked, "Why does he need a police clearance? We didn't take it when we came here. Why do we need clearance to come to our grandparents' home? It never happened before." Ajja pacified Anushka. "Child, things have changed. If people with infection travel, they will spread it. That is why there is a restriction on our travel. When you came, the spread of COVID was not as bad as it is now. Let us wait. Patience is a virtue often missing in your generation. You want everything as early as possible. You don't like to wait. Remember, waiting is also good at times. It is the first lesson of patience." "Oh, Ajji, will you tell us one last story while we wait?" pleaded Meenu. "I think you all are always hungry for stories. I'll tell you one that I had heard from my grandmother. A long time ago, there was a similar infection in 1918. It was called Spanish flu or influenza. Those who were children at the time heard this story," said Ajji. "That must be your grandma," yelled Raghu. "And our great grandma. I want to hear her story, Ajji." "That must be such a long time ago," asked Aditi. Ajji nodded and began her story.
Vinu, a teenage boy, lived with his parents in a village. His father was the village doctor and his mother a housewife. They had a small house in the outskirts and had a beautiful herb garden. In those days, herbal medicines were very popular and often given to the patients. Vinu's mother grew herbs and took care of them as if they were her children. Every morning, Vinu's father went to the village and helped the sick patients. He would come back home and first have a bath. Then he would eat lunch and rest and study in the evenings. Abhay, Vinu's best friend, was the son of the village headman. Life was calm, peaceful, and content. But one day, a stranger came to the village, and he was short, thin, and had unusual features. In the middle of the town, he made a loud announcement. I am a merchant and I have brought my merchandise here. I am closing my shop in the city and want to sell all my wares before I go to my hometown. My prices are throwaway and I will be here only for 2 days. Please come and see what I am selling. He opened a temporary shop and people gathered around it. His wares were beautiful teapots, silk handmade fans, candles, mirrors, paintings, and much more. The price too was much lower. These would be much more expensive in the city, and the villagers would have to pay for the travel too to get them. Besides, his wares looked more exquisite than the ones available in the city. There was a heavy crowd around the store, and Abhay and Vinu observed the store from a distance. They saw a stranger coughing and sneezing. He often took out a handkerchief and used it. People, however, were too distracted by the wares, and the most did not notice that the man seemed unwell. After some time, Abhay's father, the village headman, also arrived to see the stranger's shop. The merchant was hospitable and said, Sir, I need a place to stay and I am happy for paying it. The headman replied, Please come and stay with me as my guest. The stranger agreed. Vinu never had a chance to go to the store as he had to return home quickly. After reaching home, Vinu said to his father, The new merchant is sneezing and coughing, Dad. He seems sick. Father smiled and said, It must be the change in the weather and we are having these days. But he uses his handkerchief with the different places. People were touching the same wares that he sometimes kept his handkerchief on. Aha, someone has become a doctor, remarked father and smiled. I don't think I should go near him even though his shop is beautiful. Yes, Dad, said Vinu. His father nodded. The next day, Vinu went to the market and saw that the merchant at the tea shop nearby. He was wearing a sweater and had wrapped around a shawl around himself. He was talking to a man there. Vinu heard him saying, I have been feeling feverish since I went to the headman's house. Maybe the room is very cold. His sneezing and coughing continued. Vinu stayed away from him and went his way. The next day, the merchant did not turn up. His temporary store was also closed. When some villagers showed up, the store closed. The headman informed them. The merchant was a good man and had goods of the excellent quality. He sold all his wares yesterday and left the village. I hope he will visit us again. The villagers were disappointed. A few days passed. By now, many of the villagers had begun showing similar symptoms. Fever, cough, and cold, especially village elders. Some had fever, some were shivering, and others complained that their bodies were aching all over. They all began visiting Vinu's father, the village doctor. Vinu's father was a bit alarmed. Why is everyone falling sick? He wondered. Normal flu does not spread so fast. Vinu's father gave his usual herbal medicines and continued his routine of having bath after meeting his patients. A week went by and the situation became worse. Many of the elderly began losing their lives. The young men and women also felt the effect of this strange malady and even difficulties in breathing. Some were not able to explain what was happening to them. They said, I can't taste anything. Some said, I can't smell. Some were vomiting. Fortunately, the children either had mild symptom or no symptom at all. The villagers came and pleaded us with Vinu's father. Doctor Sahib, please help us. The remedies are not working at all. The doctor tried other herbs but nothing worked. The headman also felt extremely sick and so did everyone in his house. The headman too visited to the Vinu's father. This may be something of contagious. Please stay away from each other, said the doctor. He realized Vinu was probably right. The stranger's handkerchief probably touched many wares by the villagers. Day passed and still there was no improvement in anyone's health. That man said, I have decided to go to the city to get better in treatment. Many other families decided to do the same. All the village shops were closed and the local school was also shut down. Parents kept their children inside the home and the noisy playground suddenly became silent. All the noisy that remained was constant sound of coughing. Nothing like this had happened never in the before. The doctor tried his best to help the villagers, but no one came him anymore. The villagers realized that his medicines were not effective. He felt left out and prayed to God to turn things around. One evening, an old lady came to the village with a small bundle of clothes in her hand. She was tired. She searched for people in the village, but it seemed deserted. Exhausted, she sat under the village banyan tree. Later, a few men heard the sounds near the tree and went to see what it was. When they saw the lady, she shouted from a distance, I am just an old lady who has lost her way. I need a shelter for the night and then I will head out in the morning. Will one of you please give me room for tonight? The men shook their heads and went back home. The old lady was disappointed. She decided to walk further to the next village. She trudged through the outskirts of the city and reached Venu's house. There she stopped and asked for water. Venu's mother gave her water. The old lady said, Thank you. What is going on in the village? Nobody wanted to speak to me or even offer me a glass of water. I'm a traveler and I only asked for a night shelter. Venu's mother replied, Please don't mind this. The people in the village are kind and would have been taken you under normal circumstances. They would have even sent someone to accompany you to your destination. But things have changed these days. She continues to speak and explained the situation to the old woman. Can I stay here for the night? Asked the old man. Yes, but not inside the house because everyone is unknown and contagious disease. I will make all arrangement for you to sleep under the tree here and also give you food. Thank you, said the old man and laughed. I thought I would have to walk entire night. What a pleasant turn of events. Venu's mother gave the old woman good food, and the old lady stayed the night under the tree. The next day, when she was about to leave, the doctor asked her, Sister, you must have seen such disease before when you were young. What do you think? Will all of us will be perish? He pointed to the stacks of books in his house. I have gone through many books, but I still don't have any answer. The old lady smiled and said, Yes, I have heard stories about such diseases about my grandmother. They say that disease like this occurs in every 100 years. There is no medicine that will work for this. Only God of medicines can help. Venu, who was standing at a distance, was enthusiastic to hear more about this and asked, Where does he or she reside? It is a long journey, boy. One must have to travel through the thick forest, across the river, and climb the mountain. There, behind the mountain, you will find the God of medicine. It is a difficult journey and perhaps impossible. It must have been completed within 7 days. That is all I have heard, though I have never seen anyone who has taken this path. It doesn't matter. I will go, said Venu. Are you a fool? It is a hazy. You are a young boy. How can you travel a long distance alone? Said his father, brushing his idea off. The lady said goodbye and left. That entire night, Venu could not sleep. He thought about the agony of the people coughing, older people dying, and children being left as orphans. Why can't I go and meet the God? The worst that can happen is that I may not meet the God, but I have to take the chance. The next day, Venu said to his father and mother, Give me some dry fruits and sufficient for a week. I am determined to travel and meet the God of medicine and return with a solution. Pray for my success. With a heavy heart, they agreed and they wished him all the best. His mother had tears in her eyes. I will be back in 2 weeks, assured Venu, and began his journey. He crossed the river and went into the thick forest. It was difficult to cross the forest. Venu chanted the god's name and continued, If my intentions are good, please help me, Lord. That evening, he came across a young and a beautiful girl crying under a tree. Surprised to see another human being in the dark forest, he asked her, Young lady, who are you? Why are you crying? I am the angel of this forest. My father is unable to come and help me, and I must carry the wood home by myself. Today I am unwell and unable to carry this heavy load. I will help you, said Venu. He cried the
bundle of the wood, and together the duo traveled to the small palace. After they had settled, the girl made a soup for the Vinu and said, "You can rest here tonight. Father will arrive tomorrow." They talked and laughed for a long time. Vinu slept like a log that night. In the morning, he said to the girl, "Thank you for your hospitality. I need to continue my journey. Stay here, please. My father will be come soon. You were so helpful. Please meet my father. In fact, you can stay here forever." "My parents in the village. You can bring them to stay here too," said the girl. "No, I'm sorry," said Vinu. "I have a duty to the people and cannot live here in the forest. I must go." Despite repeated requests, Vinu did not agree to stay and left to continue his journey. He traveled all day. Late the evenings, when it looked like it was about to rain, he came to a valley and met an old man who was walking slowly with a stick. Vinu asked, "Grandfather, do you need help?" The old man laughed. "What a nice change it is to have someone to help me. Hold my hands and guide me so that I can reach my home early as possible before it starts pouring." Vinu took the old man's hand and they walked together. By the time they had reached a nice and well-kept hut, it had begun raining. There was dal and rice in the oven and the man shared the food with Vinu. "Grandfather, why are you staying here alone?" asked Vinu. "Oh, I'm the god of valley. My ancestors have lived here." "Where are you going?" asked the old man. Vinu explained his mission. The old man said, "You are a kind boy. If you stay here, I will make sure whole land becomes yours. You can marry anyone, bring your village people here and your parents too. The water here is like a nectar and the air is so refreshing. There are no diseases here." Vinu refused. "No, sir. I want to go back and help my people and others too. Please give me your blessing instead." The old man tried his best, but Vinu did not budge. In the end, old man gave in and Vinu left. The next morning, he reached the mountain and the old lady spoke of and climbed it. By the end of the day, he was at the top. There he approached a tree wanting to sit under it to rest. To his surprise, he saw a couple resting on the other side of the tree. When they heard the footsteps, they stood up. They asked him, "No one has ever come here before. Who are you? Why are you here?" "I'm Vinu. I'm here in search of a solution for a disease. But who are you?" The man laughed. "I hear many people are in search of many things, but I'm glad you are here. I'm the king of mountain. This is not a mere mountain. There are gold nuggets and diamond inside. Come and have a meal with us." Rubies and stone lined both sides of the road leading to a golden palace. Immediately the lunch was served. While they were eating, the king said, "Look, I need someone like you, someone who is adventurous and young and helpful. You can stay here and be the future successor of the mountain. You can stay here for 6 months and you can spend other 6 months of the year in your village." Vinu explained the details of why he had came and declined the offer. The next morning, he woke up. He got up and didn't touch a single ruby or emerald or a diamond pebble as he walked to the other side of the mountain. He was quite disappointed with his journey so far. A few hours later, he spotted a hut. He knocked at the door to ask for water. To his surprise, 2 men opened the door. They called him inside and offered him food. Vinu was uncomfortable and declined the meal. His main aim was to gather the right medicine and go back. 4 days had already gone by. He had to complete his task and return. He shared his stories with the 2 men and said, "I am in search of medicine that can cure everyone." The man laughed. It was a familiar sound. One of the men said, "There is no medicine, my boy. This is a case of humans in destroying the nature and creating problem for themselves. When they become greedy, such things happens, and it does happens once a century." The villagers were so greedy to buy the items they didn't notice that the man was unwell. The merchant too, who came to the village, is a destroyer who came in human form. When he was coughing and sneezing and touching things, people did not care about hygiene or him. They were immersed in increasing their material wealth, so the destroyer could easily spread the germs. The other added, "People must keep their house and villages clean. Only then the destroyer could be stopped. If someone is sick, they must be kept in a separate area where there is a ventilation. Provide them with a healthy food and kindness.
in the words to encourage positive thoughts, but hygiene must be followed. Hands should be washed often, bed sheets must be changed every day, and baths should be taken twice a day. That is why only way to avoid spreading of diseases to others. Hygiene is the greatest medicine of all.
Together they said, "Go back to your village and practice this. Be kind to patients. If you do all these things and hurt them with words, the purpose is lost." Vinu listened carefully and nodded.
When you both laughed, I could see familiarity. Who are you both?
"We are Ashwini Kumars, the god of medicine. We are the same ones who took form of an old lady and came to your village. So when I laughed, that reminded you of her," said one of the men. "I'm also the beautiful young girl in the forest. I'm the old man or the king of the valley and also the king of mountain. We are blessed by your dedication to help others. Any normal human being would have accepted the offer to stay back," said the other.
Vinu was happy. He had learned something that would help his people. He smiled and said, "Sirs, I don't have much time. I must return quickly."
"Don't worry, we will transport you back now. But first tell us, why did you take on such a journey?"
Vinu replied, "I have been taught that tree stands in the sun and gives shade to others. It also gives fruit to others and shelters to animals, and even though he is alone, I want to be like a tree." The loud honking of the car outside broke through everyone's thought. The office manager had arrived. "What a story!" said Raghu. "That was a beautiful, Ajji." The children agreed and they crowded round their grandparents for one last group hug. Kamloji held Ajji's hand tightly and said,
"I'll see you soon."
Ajji nodded, unable to speak. She was going to miss her and the kids. "Come on, children, it's time to go," said Ajja and helped them load the bags in the car. Within minutes, the car began to move. The children waved and said goodbye. "They will see a whole different world now," said Ajji.
"We are old now and we must be still careful with our activities for some more time,"
said Ajja. Ajji nodded and Ajja patted her on the back, reassuring that he was there even though the children had gone. The two of them stood for some time and watching the car until it reached the end of the road and disappeared from view. Then they turned around slowly and went back inside their house. So friends, this was the Sudha Murty grandparent bag of stories related to Corona period. So if you want to listen any other audiobook, please comment down, and the next audiobook which I'm going to make is Sudha Murty Grandma's Bag of Stories. So friends, do subscribe for listening these audiobooks and don't forget to like and share with your near and dear peoples. Thank you. Bye bye. Jai Hind.